I will call to order the regular meeting of the Dayton City Council for August 12th. Stand for the pledge. I pledge
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
All right. So I will note for the record that notice was given that council member Fashion is participating in the city council meeting via interactive technology, which is allowed by Minnesota statute section 13D02. The address for his location was included in the notice. Is open and accessible to the public, so that we comply with the statute. All votes that we take tonight will be conducted by roll call of members. I will need a motion and a second for the agenda.
I'll motion.
I'll second.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. Any discussion? Any changes?
There's no changes, Mayor. Thank you
Okay.
very much.
Okay, we got a motion and a second. All those in favor say, oh, wait. Yeah.
Yep.
Do we just always want to go the same direction to make it easier and slot David in where he's supposed to be?
Yeah.
Yeah, I
Okay.
think so, yeah. So we'll start with Scott. Yeah,
Roll call
here
vote.
and there on the
Oh.
agenda.
I'm okay. Yeah.
Travis?
Aye.
And Dennis is aye. And Scott, sorry, Dave?
Aye.
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 Okay, that is 5-0 for the agenda. And we are, on to fire promotion. Go ahead, Chief.
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. Tonight, it's a great opportunity to bring up Joe Tiedemann for a promotional opportunity for Station 1. Both stations are fully staffed after this promotion this evening with Joe. So we'll have a captain. We haven't had a captain over at Station 1 since roughly October-ish of 2022. So with Joe and Travis over at Station 1, and then we have Kirk and Greg here right now. Greg is out on leave of absence as lieutenant. So, Joe, if you would come forward, please. Stay right there. Raise your right hand, please. Repeat after me. I, Joe Tiedemann,
I, Joe Tiedemann,
solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
solemnly swear that I will support the Constitution of the United States of America
and the state of Minnesota
and the state of Minnesota,
while faithfully executing the duties
while faithfully executing the duties
of the captain for the Dayton Fire Department.
of the captain for the Dayton Fire Department.
I pledge to lead with integrity,
I pledge to lead with integrity,
courage, and dedication,
courage, and dedication,
upholding the highest standards of the fire service.
upholding the highest standards of the fire service.
I will protect and serve the citizens of Dayton, Minnesota
I will protect and serve the citizens of Dayton, Minnesota
with unwavering commitment and compassion,
with unwavering commitment and compassion,
placing their safety and well-being
placing their safety and well-being
above all else.
above all else.
So help me God.
So help me God.
Congratulations, sir. Congratulations.
All right, move on to consent. I need a motion and a second.
I'll motion. I'll second.
This is Scott. Any discussion? Scott, do you have anything?
Question on, I'm gonna go back to the dog. How you guys handle that? And this is just for my own satisfaction, does the dog stay in the station 24/7?
No,
Or
so,
somebody take him home?
Councilman Solonic, no. So unlike PD, I believe PD's is strictly to the station. I would actually probably be the handler of the dog, so we need somebody that can train with the Soldier 6 in that capacity. So he would go home each and every night, similar to a regular canine, come to work every single day, and then go out on significant calls, CPR calls, whatever, and then checking in, obviously, with the people that we're responding to, make sure there's no allergic reactions, anything of that nature with pets. And then also having them here during significant events as it relates to suicides or deaths for the fire department. So it's something that is the new norm, unfortunately. We're seeing about 100 firefighter suicides annually. So this is something hopefully to prevent that. I did not put it in the packet, but the idea is that we would use at least $10,000 of our public safety dollars to augment the cost of the annual budget of the dog, so just vet bills and dogs, or the dog food, if you will, for that capacity. So that'll come from our public safety dollars, which were designated to some extent to be used for that particular use.
Any others?
No, I just wanted to know, is he gonna be running around City Hall and you guys gotta run him outside every couple of minutes to,
He will be here.
you guys
during-
will all have little bags in your pockets and
He will be here during council once he's trained, and should be kind of, the idea of it is that when they are here, they're given the ability to roam the room really, and then they interact with people if people are interested in with them interacting. It's just that calmness that comes with it. So we've seen it in soldiers, if you will, hence Soldier 6 is we're looking to partner with for the training. So yeah, I mean, it'd be an awesome opportunity, I think, not only for fire staff, but if Zach's having a bad day, we can send him down there.
Another question, Chief, on that one. When you're taking a vacation or you're out on a leave of some sort, what does the care look like for the dog as far as that? Does it get handled to the next full-time employee that's gonna come and go, or have you had that discussion?
Yep. So usually what happens is we give the organization the opportunity, if somebody's interested in watching the dog for the weekend or for the week or whatever the case, in that capacity. So yeah, usually we take it within the organization and go from there.
Okay.
You good, Scott?
I guess so.
Travis?
That's all I had, yeah.
I don't have anything. Dave, do you have anything for consent?
Yeah, just a couple of things here really quickly. On the under item B, page 19, there's an annual membership for Comfort Matters. Is that just stated wrong? Is it more of a service contract, or what is that about?
That's the maintenance contract for the rooftop units and air conditioning at City Hall, Fire Station 2, and the Activity Centre and Fire Station 1.
Okay, thank you. It just didn't make sense to me that it was an annual membership, so thanks for clarifying that. On page 30, for fire department, there's $2,011 for uniform badges. Is that correct? The badges are really $2,000?
Councilmember Fashant, yes, they were initially supposed to be $4,000 because of some issues with the manufacturer. We were able to get them down to $2,000, but they're roughly about $100 a piece. And our old ones had the state seal on them, so we needed to move away from that.
Okay, thank you. Then item D, I don't have a question about that per se, but we've got a $45,000 change order for demobilization, and I just want to make sure that includes remobilization once we get the EAW completed and can get those guys back to work.
So that change order is for the demobilisation and remobilisation into the site for once the EAW is approved and we can carry on with the project. So it should be taking the equipment out and bringing it back.
Okay, so it covers their remobilization, then we won't have another change order for that.
No, that's correct. The 40, 45, whatever it is, covers both.
Okay, thank you. And then my last question was under item I, page 100. The pickup truck for the fire department at $90K. I'm wondering, Chief Hendrickson, if you could talk a little bit more about how that will be used.
Yes, Councilman Fischon. So sorry if I cut you off. The idea for that is this was an item that was designated out of the capital improvement budget for next year. We are using up to $90,000 in public safety dollars to purchase that vehicle. The idea is that there'll be a second out vehicle, or it could be a first out vehicle, it kind of depends. It'll be outfitted just like our fire engines, so engine 12 and engine 21, giving the opportunity to respond to all medicals and fire calls. The only thing that it will not have, obviously, is it will not have any water or hose on it. So the idea is a slide-out bed with a topper and a crew cab for 4 people. So it'll also be a transport vehicle to assist with when we have new hires. They need to travel to training. We do have some department expenses that relates to that. We've tried to use one of the other vehicles to minimize that, but that's primarily how that would be used. We'd also be adding another one of these types of vehicles in the future as well to mimic the same thing here at Station 2.
And so that one on a medical call, that would be kind of your go-to vehicle, first out the door rather than a truck?
No, not necessarily. It's going to be secondary. The biggest thing for me is making sure that when that first truck goes out the door is that it has all of our tools that we have, to include water. Often we can get duplicate calls where we have to go on an extrication, then we have to send a crew back to get that truck and then respond out. This will be an opportunity for us, primarily as a second out piece of equipment. It doesn't do our engines any good to sit in the station. And of course, there's the other side of that. You don't want to overuse them, down the road. But we've had not enough use. I think we're going to cause some of our issues as well from just sitting in the station.
Okay, thank you. That's all the questions I had on consent.
Yeah, I've got one piece just on item J, so I just want to thank Jason for his extra work he's put in at the fire department recently. He's been helping a lot with some of the fire checks and those kind of things and taking a lot of work. So appreciate him and happy for his next chapter in his life.
All right. Open forum. Any-
We gotta approve it.
What?
We gotta
Oh,
approve.
sorry. All right, I got a motion and a second. All those in favor? Oh, Scott? Yay or nay?
Yeah.
Travis?
Yay.
I'm yay. Dave?
Yay.
Yay.
Yeah. All right, 5-0. Now we're open forum. Do we have anybody here for open forum? Is anybody online for open forum?
There is one person online. If you would like to use the raise your hand function to speak during open forum, please do that now. They did not raise their hand.
All right. Staff consultant council updates. Zach?
Yep, good evening, Mayor, members of council. I don't have a whole lot of updates. Want to let everyone know that I will be out of the office again next week. Yep, I'll take another family vacation, it's rough life. Nope, I'm gonna be up north again, so we'll have limited resources related to cell service, but I will do my best to check in.
When are you out?
Next week, so they'll be on Saturday.
Monday through Friday.
Saturday to Saturday, so that's vacation. But, yeah, so on next week. Other than that, I don't have anything else. I appreciate all the hard work that our staff does each and every day that I don't see when I'm not here and when I am here. And we have a great staff here, so I appreciate that.
You better be careful and not use it all up for hard ice.
I think he's having the other problem.
Hard water.
He can't. He's not using it quick enough now. Honestly, he's losing vacation but not taking vacation.
Marty?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. I have a couple of things. I was actually out on vacation last week, so it seems to be an epidemic going through the city. Just a couple of things. I'm going to try and get Paul Kangas at the next council meeting to discuss where we're at with the park improvement projects that we've planned for this year, so he can give us an update on that. The next thing, the project for Dayton River Road has been pushed back a couple of times now. It's now currently scheduled for September the 3rd to the 14th.
So just a couple weeks again. I reached out a month ago and they said late August, early September, so.
Yeah. It was originally going to be July, so it's just moving down the
Yeah,
line. So
okay.
that's the latest that I got last week.
Are they just gonna eventually just say April or what?
That's what I'm kind of
I'm hoping not. I mean, all the other projects are moving along pretty quick, and I think ours is going to be the last one, and there's pretty hard schedule in there for the 9-3. So I'm hoping that that's going to be a hard number for us.
Garrett?
Good evening, Mayor and members of council. So we are just about done through our hiring process. I need to get out a congratulation letter to 4 people. We had some late arrivals. Normally, we would not take additional firefighters this late in the game, but we're looking at adding 2 more. I think all but 1 or so, I can't remember, will be going to Station 1. The reason for the late additions is the folks that gave some interest in the fire department is both of them are fully trained in Fire 1, Fire 2, so we don't have that expense. One of them is already EMT, so we just need to train one of them in EMT, so it's a good opportunity to bring them both on.
Yes.
Evening, Mayor, members of the council. We had National Night Out last week, a great turnout. We had 31 parties. We were, as a department, able to hit every single party, except one, I believe, so that was great that we were able to make it out to everyone. Thank you to the citizens that hosted and Officer McAlpine for putting it together. He does a great job with it every year. And then the Magnus event at Operation Zero that took place on Saturday sounded like a good turnout and very well attended, and the officers said it was a good time.
John?
Just real briefly, we had a good conversation with the Met Council on Friday regarding development in rural areas. There's a longer explanation in it, but kind of the short is that we can do 1 per 10, but not remove land from the metropolitan urban service area.
So it wasn't a great meeting.
I was saying.
It
was a good conversation because of the number of people that were involved. So,
Okay, thank you.
yeah.
No updates here.
Amy?
Nothing from me.
Scott?
I got one. Whether it's a look for Marty or not, apparently we got a little complaining that the brush is getting high over in the industrial area on some of the private properties, namely the cubes. I don't know if it is or not. I don't know if we can take care of any of that.
Yeah, so
Any of that?
Cultivar Slotnick, we did talk to the owners of that building and they are aware of it, and that was as of Thursday last week. So we should hopefully see some progress on there. If I don't hear anything or see anything by the end of the week this week, I'll reach back out to them because they are aware of it.
Okay.
They did note that they said they're not on site, so it's always good to get updates because
Well, no
they're trying to
kidding.
rent the building out, so they need to have some updates. So.
You still got to take care of it even if you're not.
Correct. Yep. So it's said they just don't know they're not there, so we
Yeah.
can't push as landscapers if they
Yeah.
doesn't know it's that
Yeah.
bad. So.
No
Okay.
cameras around the building?
Not yet.
Yeah, they will.
It's empty. Nothing to steal. Water.
Anything
That's all I
else?
got.
Travis?
No, nothing for me.
I wanted to share recognition given to our state rep, Danny Nadeau, as the League of Minnesota Cities Legislator of Distinction. They recognized him for the work he did on the issues that had an impact on local units of government. So, just wanted to put that out there, and I have nothing else. Matt?
Dave?
Dave. Sorry, Dave, I'm looking at your empty chair and thinking you're gone, but yeah, go ahead.
That's okay. 2 things. Well, my apologies for not being there when we booked this trip. I didn't anticipate there was going to be a primary election, but I will be be flying back tomorrow morning, and so I will be able to vote in that, and would encourage everybody else to make sure they find their way to the polls. Second thing, Marty, because the schedule keeps slipping on the Dayton River Road project, we're now it's going to overlap into the start of the school year, and I just want to make sure that the school districts are aware of that, because that will probably mess up their routes at a time when they're just trying to figure them out. So just want to make sure we have that communication.
Yeah, and I'll bring that up at the meeting on Thursday this week to make sure that they contact their school districts to make them aware of the project.
Thank you. That's it for me.
All right. I've got 2 items. One is just thank you to everyone that came out for National Night on the police and fire side. We appreciate seeing everyone. Special thanks for sending the 3 firefighters from our neighborhood to our neighborhood. That was a significant hit for their families, so thank you very much for that. The second piece, I know Zach sent it out in his city staff updates, but I think it'd be something I'd be interested to know. You know, we talked about, or I brought up the idea of possible term limits for commission at EDA. Sounds like we need 2 people to, or majority. How many people do you need? 3 people? Two people to show interest in that. I was wondering if anyone else had interest in having that conversation.
I'll entertain it.
Thank you. That's all I have.
Yeah, I would be interested in having that conversation as well. I guess you only needed 2, but I'm interested in talking about it.
Thank you.
Is that it?
That's all I got.
So we are on to council business, item M.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I'm going to sit here as the finance director, and I'll give you over the quarterly report. If you have any questions, please stop and ask me. This is the general fund cash balance as we show throughout the years. For the last 4 years, we try to show a general graph of what it looks like. As you can see, this year it actually went negative. I want to make sure that everyone knows it's not because we're spending more money, but it's because we approved operations budgets significantly higher one year and didn't have the money to be able to do it because we don't get that funding for that year until July. So when it goes negative, it's because we're running on 2023 operation dollars, but we're spending 2024 actual operation dollars before we get 2024's actual money. So don't be rest assured, if we have enough cash, we're all good to go. We went negative for, I think it was like 10 days, and then we got our money on July 3rd. So the taxes won't show up in here, but we did get the cash.
So that means, then, just so I can jump in right away, that means the clerk, finance, assessing, engineering, legal, recycling, planning, central service, public works, all of those funds are over the percentage right now.
Correct.
But they're really not.
Correct.
Is what you're saying.
Correct.
Okay.
Should say they're over currently, but
Yeah.
doesn't mean they are long term. There are some operations efficiencies with having to pay things, up ahead, and we pay things in advance,
Okay.
and so I'll touch base on a couple of those, just like you mentioned. But any questions on the graph overall? I know that's the first thing that stuck out to me when I was reviewing it. I said I want to make sure I touch base on that because everyone's probably freaking out that we're negative in cash when we really aren't. So.
I was too.
See, I knew somebody was, and it's always Scott. Appreciate that. Okay, so as typical with taxes, we don't receive those until July. We have in the past done a 70% advance and got them in June. However, the amount of paperwork that needs to be done to get it 2 weeks early is literally crazy. So we wait 2 weeks and wait for our money because we get it either June 20th or July 3rd. And so it doesn't make any sense to receive it twice. You want to receive it one time and July 3rd and call it a day.
Is it always July, like before July 4th?
Yep. I don't know why it's not before June, but that's just what it is.
I'm curious, and I have no weight one way or the other, but council's thought on when we do that reporting, why don't we just report it on July 4th? I know technically I know it's 6 months and 4 days, so it's Q2 plus 4, but I feel like if it's always like at July 4th, give or take a day, it makes sense to have it in here versus the conversation being like, oh, it's all coming, don't worry. That's my thought, at least.
Yeah, we did get it. It was just over $3 million for the first half. So.
Yeah, to his point, I was kind of thinking that too, but
It's not technically 6 months, so that's why we
I
don't
know,
do it.
yeah.
That's why I said I'm okay either way. It might hinder some or put some questions to bed before they even happen.
it just would be nice to see it. Yeah, but of course, I'd like to see him send it out monthly instead of.
Me too.
I think a lot of working capital sitting on that for 6 months.
So we did get the taxes. They came in on July 3rd. as basically scheduled, but yeah, we did get them. So I could look into it next year and just add that number in there so that it doesn't look so bad, because right now it looks like we're negative $3 million, and it's really not true.
I'm okay with that if everyone else is, but
And like, yeah, we can do that moving forward, and Q3 will look much nicer, but still, it's not the same. Okay, and then fines and forfeitures, we have not gotten hardly any fines this year. You can blame the police department or people not speeding. Been a little busy. Yeah, there you go. That's another answer. And then miscellaneous dollars, we get the cell tower lease comes in Q4 of the year, so that's 30 grand. And then we have not received any donations that we had budgeted for. So.
Is that cell tower thing indefinite until
Yeah,
you don't want
it
it
goes
anymore,
until
or?
2042.
Yeah, it's a 25-year.
25-year lease, I think. So
You'll be long gone.
yeah, it'll keep, and it has an escalator every year. I think it's a 3% escalator every year, or 4%.
42? Yeah. probably.
Minimum of 3, and otherwise it follows inflation. So, and they pay every year, and it seems to work well. So, for the expenses, assessing is the big one, and it shows that we're way over budget. If you take this year's budget and double it, we're about $1,000 off. And the reason for that is because they charge us a little staff time when they do it. So that's why we're off $1,000. But nevertheless, it's because we pay that once a year, and then that's it. Fire suppression, that one's way under budget. Good job, Gary. And it's because we hired the assistant chief a little bit into Q2, and that saved a little bit of dollars. And also the timing of payrolls is just a little off. We did adjust that in July, but we didn't adjust it in time for June. So just an FYI. And then number 6, parks is under budget as well, and that's because it doesn't really start until most of the way through Q2 when we start using park dollars. So I think so far we're on budget for almost every single department. There'll be 1 or 2 that are a little over currently, but they will flex over time. IT is one of them that we seem to have a lot of expenses at the beginning of the year because we pay all the memberships and subscriptions, and then they seem to lay off towards the end of the year. We also spend a lot of the money related to new computers and new monitors and everything at the beginning of the year, and then we wait, as Councilmember Fashion has told us, do the July freeze. We kind of do that in the middle of the year for a few months with IT until we get to the end of the year to figure out where we're at. So overall we're fine. I know the cash balance doesn't look great, but we are almost on budget and perfect for everything. So. Cash balances, nothing really changed here from Q1 to Q2. A few new funds popped in there, police and fire public safety aid dollars. Those are related to those one-time dollars that came in from the state, and we augmented them out in the individual funds that they were received to. Other than that, the major changes, we got paid by TIF dollars, and a bunch of them as we get over and start the TIF districts. Nothing major. Water fund, we have the little less irrigation this year. Been a little rainy, so we don't pay as people aren't watering their yards, and they still water them, but not as much when it's raining every other day.
Are we, so why are we doing the even odd thing then if we're in good shape then?
Again?
The even odd sprinkling?
So I do know that is because it's based on, so when it was dry, so people are expecting the rain to happen every other day, and then unfortunately our lawns take care of that, and then they say, okay, well I should be getting rain every other day, and then they don't. Then they spike their water usage way up. And so we were pumping over 1 million gallons a day.
So we didn't hit that again?
Yes, and that's what we implemented again.
So when we get that third well online, I'm assuming we're gonna remove this, because it only helps us to.
Yeah, I think that what we might look at doing is looking at when we get to a capacity drawdown. Say if we're running at 75% capacity, then maybe we would look at putting the odd even in. Unless we're reaching that capacity, I think that might be the way to go.
Sure.
The other piece of that too is the time of day. So I know, like when you and I talked about a year ago, you had said the biggest issue we have is that everyone waters at the same time, and it's usually right when people are taking showers, ready for work. That's because builders, when they all program them to all go off at 4 a.m. So one thing that if anyone is out there listening is to change the time that your cycle starts to like midnight or 10. And we could even consider, instead of doing a watering ban or even odd, is just changing no watering from 5 a.m. to 10 p.m. or whatever. So people have to water overnight, and then that also I think would help a little bit with that, right?
Yeah, it would help not having the whole drawdown at the first part of the day.
Yeah.
And the problem with that is that you get below your fire flow protection limit. So it would be better if we could have it, half of them do it in the morning and half of them do it in the evening. That would be the ideal situation. It has got somewhat better. More people are doing it in the evening, but the majority is still in the morning.
But the capacity of that third pump is gonna be significant.
That will
enough to
significantly
where
help.
it
Right now, we use a threshold of a total gallons a day.
Mm-hmm.
Once we get 1 million gallons a day, that's kind of our threshold to say, okay, we need to go out even, because
Backing off.
if we need it, then we need to have that capacity, but
Yep.
if we have a capacity, then that makes a whole lot more sense.
Yeah.
Does that change on this, we have 3 different water systems, does that change via water system then? Because that will help the northeast system, but that won't change Maple Grove water.
Maple Grove always had the odd even, so
Okay.
that would be run all that time on
the south
even.
side of town.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah, they're on it based on Maple Grove's
Okay,
Yeah.
restrictions.
restrictions.
Yep.
Okay.
Do you still have people that reach out to you every now and then about programming their? I know you were running some pilot with.
Yeah.
Who was it?
I can't remember. We were trying to get people to put in some.
Yeah, you were working with
rain
the
centers,
university or
and then
something
we
like that.
did a program with the University of Minnesota
Yeah.
turf thing. They've been turning up at the open house and
Yeah.
giving out a lot of information there, and that's significantly cut down the amount of questions that I get. We do have stuff on the website about good irrigation practices and that kind of stuff. So we're trying to keep the irrigation message going out there. And generally for water conservation, I think that's a good thing for us to do.
Yeah, because some people have new established lines where they might need a little bit more, but then those ones that are established. I mean, I think you were telling me like 2 inches a week or something like that
It's
was
just
kind of
an
like a
inch.
figure that you were using.
I think the inch a week is what
Something like that, yeah.
they need to maintain a healthy lawn and shrubs and that kind of thing. It's just an inch a week is what it's good for.
Yeah, a lot of people don't. Once they're established, they don't go back and adjust it.
That's what I'm saying.
Yeah,
It's like,
yeah.
yeah, just kind of
Yeah.
leave it as is, but
And that's just money there.
it's the more you, yeah, exactly, to that point.
Well,
you just
when
kind
they
of-
first set them up, they set them up to run twice a day.
Yeah,
I'm like,
Yeah.
whoa.
Fresh shot
yeah, you want to
needs
mow
be
4
so
times a
good.
week? No.
Yep.
No. Cool, well, that's good to hear, so.
Any other questions on any other funds that we have here? I noted a few of them,
Oh,
obviously.
yeah,
but-
sorry, we're kind of out of time.
No, you guys doing great. It's fine. Good questions.
I got nothing.
Okay.
No, I'm good.
Water fund, we touched briefly on it again, but we'll touch base on it again. Essentially, I do want to make sure everyone knows we only have 2 billing cycles in this time frame. So we only have March and May that actually are for this year. So 2 billing cycles, but we have 6 months worth of actual expenditures. So it does look like our sales are way down below our actual current expenditures. That's not actually the case because again, we bill in July again. So if you do July 4th or July 5th, you'll probably capture the fact that we're going to have another billing cycle in there, which will be 3 billing cycles or 6 months worth of sales, and typically our highest usage is always in the summer months, as noted before. So nothing majorly changed. We don't have any major repair and maintenance repair and maintenance. I think that was related to. Yeah, that's true. I think that's related to the wellhead treatment plant. So.
Yeah.
Any other questions on the water fund? Overall, like I said, same thing with the sewer fund. We only have 2 billing cycles again. Again, we haven't had any major repairs and maintenance this year again. Knock on wood. But everything's kind of status quo in the sewer and the water funds. And the major thing that we always change every year is related to irrigation and water usage. And so far this year's been low, just based on the weather. Comments, questions, concerns, complaints? Okay.
So, I don't know if I missed when you went through this slide, but you did have in the packet anyway, a breakdown on how our investments are doing. And I don't have any questions about that per se, but I've kind of picked up in the community that there's some confusion, perhaps that we can invest in anything we want to with the money we have on hand. And maybe you can talk a little bit about the limitations on where our money can be put.
Sure. Yeah, it's not in the packet, and I don't typically share it on there. I'm happy to add it as a slide if you'd like to see that more often. But cities and governments are only allowed to invest in certain types of investments, basically, or very, very safe ones. Essentially, we get CDs, we get municipal securities, so investing in other communities that take out bonds. We can do agencies, or they're basically backed by the federal government, so you get a $250,000 limit, and that's all you can do. And if that bank fails or that agency fails, we get paid by the federal government for the FDIC insurance, so we get limited there. And then you can do some money market, basically, is what you get, the main 4 that we end up in. And money market is a conglomerate of dollars associated with different banks. And again, we put it into one fund, and that one fund takes it and splits it off into a million different investments, and it's all related to the same things, but then they conglomerate the money and say you get X percentage back, and it's all backed by FDIC insurance again. So the 2 things that are not backed are CDs and municipal
securities, but those are typically backed by government taxation. So like municipal bonds will be taxed, taxation. So if they are not going to make their payment, they'll tax more so that they make their payment. Or like I said, they're covered by FDIC insurance. So we have very, very limited ones. We can't invest in, United Health Group or Amazon or anything like that, because if it goes down at all, essentially we have to have it very, very safe. They have to be AA rated or higher in the Moody's or S&P. So we can't invest in any single A investments or anything like that are, smaller communities or things that aren't rated really high. So essentially we're guaranteed our money back on everything we invest in. There is very, very few things that I am willing to invest our dollars in that are even risky at all without, knowing for sure we're going to get a decent return back. And right now we're earning 4.5% or 5% interest rate on almost everything we're doing, and it's guaranteed. So it might be a little lower in the packet, but that's because we have some investments from when we were being managed by a money manager, and they have lots of little bits and pieces in these little tiny percentages that they would go really, really far in. But everything we're investing in today is roughly between 4% and 5%.
So that's a 3.84 in the packet. I could
Correct.
be wrong, but
Yeah.
okay.
So as we've gotten, if you look back a few years, it was probably right around 2 or so. But at that time, that was a good interest rate. And now I'm trying to push things out for years in advance. So I think we're investing in 2027 or 2028 based on the CIP and the long-term plan, because we're guaranteed that 4 or 5% interest rate for that many years. And we might as well lock it in for 5 years if I know for a fact we're going to get it 5% for 5 years. I could play the market and do pretty well. So, but they're all guaranteed and backed by FDIC insurance or an agency itself. But very, 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 very safe. Any questions? Good question, though. I appreciate that question.
No, thank you for that. So no on the Bitcoin then, huh?
Negative on Bitcoin. Although we could have made a ton of money in a little bit of time. But
And
it could have lost it all, exactly. Thank you very much.
Okay, any other questions? All right, we can move on to item N. EDA. Is that Amy, or who's doing that?
I'll take that one, yeah. So Mayor, members of council, we have the EDA resolution in front of you. I know that Attorney Amy Schmidt was able to rewrite that draft based on what was being presented by council. We do have a public hearing tonight to be able to adopt that. So we do have to open the public hearing. I want to make sure that's noted as well. Other than that, Amy and I will stand for questions if you have any. But this is based on what the conversation was 3 weeks ago.
Yeah.
And then we posted it, and obviously we're going to take that feedback and then pass it later on. So.
Okay.
And then, so there's 2 resolutions.
Yep.
The first resolution is the adjustment or basically passing of how the EDA is set today. The second resolution, which you do not see before, but it is now, is appointing the members to make sure that they are still part of the EDA that they are today, and essentially just keeping it status quo with where they were at their terms and everything else. But we do have to appoint them technically because you are changing the the status or whatever the EDA is, so you technically have to reappoint them. So that's what the second resolution is. So that's why there's 2.
Public hearing first, or no?
Yeah, why don't, so, well, the only issue I have is, the appointments.
Yep.
2 of them, I think, are incorrect, as to where they're at today. Luther and, I think it's pronounced Peralta.
Peralta.
Yep.
Peralta.
Commissioner Peralta. Yep.
Yeah, because it shows, let me get back to the minutes, it shows that they're doing 25 and they just got in not long ago. so-
22? Was that what it was? We didn't go back. I thought it was like a 22 appointment for those 2
It's
individuals.
really not
I just took
shown.
the dates that were listed on the EDA page on the city's
Sure.
website,
Oh,
so.
okay.
No, they were appointed in 21.
Really, Rich? Sean's been there for 3 years?
Okay. I thought him and
That's
Peralta.
Yeah.
were at
I don't
the
know if
same
I've
time.
appointed anyone to the EDA since I've been here.
Really?
I could be wrong. I don't have the Braves memory, but I don't think I have.
Yeah,
no.
they're 4-year terms.
Wow.
They should be
6
Yeah,
year
they're
terms.
6.
Is it 6-year terms?
Yeah, they were
EDA
6.
6 years, yeah.
That's what I'm.
It should be a 6-year term. That's how it was set up.
So,
believe it's written.
no, so
That's
here's
what the
how,
statute requires too.
no.
There was
so they-
confusion
they're
to that
supposed
one,
to be 6-year
yeah.
terms. However, in the bylaws passed in 21, they are successive terms, but they get longer as they stay on longer. So they were listed as 4 years, 5 years, and then 6 years, based on the bylaws. So when you first got elected on there or got put on there, they were supposed to be for 4 years. And then if you got reappointed, then it was 5 years, and then you got reappointed, it was 6 years.
So I believe,
And that might have been corrected after that, but at the time, that was what the bylaws mentioned.
and I think that's because I thought that they had lost track of, I remember that discussion.
Yep.
I think
Yep.
we had lost track of when
Yep.
they were really started. And so that was the agreement. We would just boom,
Correct.
boom, boom.
Exactly. That's
So-
why they were 4 years, and
So
that's why they're
these-
25s, because they were
The
appointed.
concern I have is then we got 3 people up in 25. And that just seems
Yep.
wrong. So I don't
Believe,
know.
and you have to confer with Amy, but I believe we can adjust that resolution
We can, yeah.
based on a motion. and a
I'm
second.
just-
Shouldn't we see if anyone wants the extra time before we do it though? Because I hate to sign someone up for a year they didn't know they were signing up for. In all fairness to
They
them.
can always resign.
Yeah, but some people take, if you just have to do something, you're going to do it. So some people take that a little serious. I'd rather fix it. If it was me, I'd rather fix it at the time when their current terms are up and fix it then. If we need to fix it.
Well, then we got 3 people up in 1 year, and I don't want to do that. I don't know. What does everybody else do?
What's 3 of 5, right? So,
3 of 7.
well, I don't count the council ones because those are kind of up
Okay.
every year because we
yeah,
reassign every year. So
Right.
3 of 5 are going to be up.
Well, the one's up next year. Let me at least get to the,
Yeah, Jack's up in 24, Tim's up in 25, Sean's up in 25, and Juan's up in 25.
yeah, there's 3 in 25, and then
And we're
Jack's up
missing
in
one.
24. And yeah,
Yeah, like I said, based on the time that they got appointed to EDA, at the time that's when the bylaws were written of 4, 5, and 6 years, and they were considered successive consecutive terms. But when you first got appointed to EDA, it was mentioned that you only got to be on there for 4 years, which is why they're all in 25. And then if you got reappointed, it's 5 years, and then you get reappointed again, it's 6 years.
And there's still an opening, right?
There's still an opening.
There's still an opening.
yes.
Now,
So-
with the adjusted resolution, it would be automatic 6 years, and everyone's at 6 years.
Right.
Yeah, but we should
But then you
stagger
have a
them so they come to. I agree with the mayor that they shouldn't all come to the same time. If there's a 6-year term, there's 5 people
Right.
on there. There should really be 1 a year. I don't disagree with that. My point, more or less, is these people were appointed till this time frame. I would say when these 3 come up in 25, that's where we say we've got a seat that's open for 4 years, 1 seat's open for 5 years, 1 seat's open for 6 years. Make sure when you apply, let us know which one you're applying for, and then go from there. So different than we do for city council when someone leaves midterm.
True.
And you
Mr.
know what you're
Mayor,
saying.
if I could help, in the statute, the way that it's written, when you're establishing the commission, or the commissioners for the EDA, it does call for a staggered appointment. So if you wanted to do that, so you would, as has been suggested, that you would do, when you have the 3 come due in 2025 and you appoint new people, one of them would be for a 4-year term, one of them would be for a 5-year term, one of them would be for a 6-year term, until you can get everybody, all of the seats on a 6-year rotation.
So they would just kind of pick what block of time they want to serve, you're saying, and kind of ask
They'd
for, say,
pick
when
which-
we get to that point?
They'd pick which one they want to apply
Yeah.
for, so they know what they're choosing when
In
they
December
apply
of
for the
25.
position. Yeah.
So it's
Yes, so
It's
it
a
would
lottery,
be,
is what they
it would
kind of-
be,
yeah.
one seat would be for, until 2029, one would be until 2030, and one would be until 2031.
So what I'm still confused about is that goofy staging thing that we did, that was before Luther and before
One.
Juan.
Yeah.
And so they should have been 6 years. That's
They
why.
should have been, but by the way the bylaws were written, and again in 21, I was not in this capacity. I was the finance director. That was what was chosen. It was a 4-year term.
So we can adjust
Alright.
the resolution as it's written.
I don't disagree with you. I'm not trying to disagree. I'm just trying to.
I would
And
prefer,
it could come back to your next meeting for you to approve, and that way, as Councilmember Trost suggests, you could talk to somebody, one of the members, so they
So we
are
wanna-
okay
so we
with
wanna-
a longer term.
I'd rather just let these terms
Any
end,
problem?
and then when they end, if any of those people choose to reapply, they then just say if they're applying for the 4-year, the 5-year, the 6-year term, and let them choose at that point in time how long they want to stay on. Because a lot can change between now and the end of next year too, and they could say yes now and change their mind. So I'd rather do it that way, personally.
I don't have a choice. I don't think it matters, 6 to 1 half, didn't it?
Yeah.
Scott or Dave, do you have any,
No, I think having 3 come up in 1 year, shouldn't be the plan. How we fix it, I'm not as concerned about, I guess, but other than that we should. I did flag something in the resolution that had me confused, and that was under the 2.2 where it talks about terms, and it says, under A, it says 6-year, and then 4-year, and then 6-year again. And I don't know if that's what that was trying to address, or if that was a typo. But it seems like we've got to fix something here.
yeah, I mean, I'm okay with tabling it and talking to these guys to see if they want.
That's just for resolution 3824, correct?
That is for you, the members.
Yep.
Yep. Yeah, 38, 2024.
Yeah, and what I was referring to was in the first resolution.
Yep.
Yeah, I see that.
It was page 117 of our packet, under 2.2A.
It reads, the county
It does.
commissioners shall be
It-
appointed to a 6-year term,
The
4-year term.
shall commence, yeah.
Yeah,
then it
you're
goes
right,
back to
that's a
commence.
typo,
That's-
apologies. It should be 6.
Okay.
Well, if we decide we just want to leave it as is though, and just have those come due and fix it, then we can just approve it tonight and deal with it in
Yeah.
2 years. We don't have
That's
to
what I'm
table it.
saying, yeah, agree, agree.
I would say no, but it sounds like we got 3 here that want to do that. Okay.
Pick now or pick then.
Here, I'll-
Yeah.
If you're done, I've got some
True.
questions too. I just didn't want to interrupt because I think you started.
Yeah, no, I think I am good.
I had
Yeah,
some,
go ahead.
Okay, thank you. I had some questions and maybe one of them was a thought was on 4.1. I think it says that the city administrator will be I think it's the exact page here.
Executive director.
Yeah. Is there a reason it's not the community development director? Because the community development director would directly be working with the the economic development agency. That linkage seems better to me than the city administrator.
Generally, it's the city administrator. So, I mean, there's other cities where it's been both, but from my experience, the majority has been the city administrator.
Well, my concern is Zach is the finance director and the city administrator. She's already playing 2 hats, and part of what I hear from him is I'm busy. Not that you're not, but I'm busy. So I think freeing him up from that meeting, and allowing you to run it, to me makes a little bit more sense, both from the use of our staff time as well as I think there's some syncrasy there that could be beneficial. So just I don't know if anyone else has thoughts on that.
No thoughts, just-
Okay. And then on 5.3, for powers related to purchasing property, I didn't see anywhere either in that area or in the section 6 that talk about how that has to be approved by city council. Did I miss it? Or I may have. It's very legalese, so I'm not fluent in it. But my understanding was in order to do that, that would have to be approved by the city council.
I would think so.
Because to sell property has to be approved by the city council. I would think the purchase property also would be approved by the city council.
A public hearing is required and council approval for the sale.
Correct.
Wait, where are you seeing that?
So
That's in
5.
section 6, I believe. It talks about the sale, but
I'm looking at
You're looking at acquisitions, right, under
I'm looking at
5.3 property rights?
5.3E.
yeah, 5.3E. I had a question on 5.3, and then when I read 6, it says that even though 5.3E doesn't list it, under 6, where it says, I forget what the title of 6 is, limits
Sale
of power, it
powers.
does say in order to sell property, it needs to be,
Approved by the Dayton City Council with written resolution,
Thank you.
right? Yeah.
yeah.
Yep, that's what I'm
So
following.
selling property requires city council approval, but purchasing property, the way I read this, unless I'm reading it wrong, Amy, does not. And I feel like it should be consistent. And so I feel like the city council should also be approving the purchase of property as well as the sale of property.
If you want to add that, we can, certainly.
Well,
Yeah, so
I'd like to know so I'm confused, because 5.3E clearly states that they can sell property and they can buy property.
But then further down in 6,
Yep, I
you see
get
that part?
I'm just, at some point, what good is a EDA?
Well, this is the conversation I was trying to have last week, which is we've removed all the authority from the Economic Development Authority and put all the authority in the council. And so they're really, and this is where maybe I'm just trying to clarify some of the later comments I know Zach heard and some editorials I found online about maybe my reason for doing that. The reason for doing that is I want to call them what they are. And if, when we talked 2 weeks ago, whatever the time was we last talked about this, the idea was that, yeah, they'll have power, but everything has to be approved by the council anyways. And so we can call them an authority, that's fine, then it's just a name, but I want to make sure that whatever's in here is then fitting that the city council is the one approving these things.
When I bought into that the city council still has power, we can change these bylaws, we can change we can change all this stuff. I didn't mean from that we would approve in every property purchase they make or every property sale they make. That was not my intent. Don't most EDAs have the authority to purchase and sell property outside their council?
It varies from city to city
Yeah.
and from it's whatever the council puts into this enabling resolution, the powers that the council gives to an EDA.
And I will say that some EDAs are the council, so then that also
Sure.
dictates what's going to be
Right,
there.
that part would make sense.
But then it also dictates on that as well.
Well, yeah, they may actually not do that because it'd be
Correct.
more work than it's worth.
Exactly.
I guess
David, do you have any thoughts on this?
Sorry, I had to get myself off of mute. Well, I guess I missed that piece where it said, where it related to purchase of property. I think that it needs to be consistent. If we're going to have the council approve sales, then we should also have the council approve purchases.
I do want to clarify.
Or neither.
I do want to clarify on 6.1 on F, it says a land sales policy. So the EDA is going to develop a policy, and the EDA will submit that policy to the council, but that does not mean that the council approves land sales based on 6.1F.
Yeah, no, I got that.
Yeah, so that's not approving the sale of property on 6.1F, that's approving a policy of how they're going to handle land sales.
Yeah, I'm still looking for it. Where did it say that we would approve land sales?
And maybe that's what I was reading, was
And that-
the
so
Dayton EDA
that's what I'm
develops a
talking
land
about.
sale policy. I assume that was like selling a parcel of land.
No,
Okay.
that's a policy on how they handle land sales or policy of how they
Oh.
handle. Yeah, so that, there's no contradiction there.
Okay.
The 6.1F is just the policy of how they're going to handle their land
Okay.
sales. 5 is where they have the power of acquiring and selling. I want to make sure that's clear.
So that's helpful. Thank you. Again,
Yes.
I started with I don't speak legally, so thank you for that. That's helpful. And then,
Well, and I'm sorry to interrupt, but I would also point out that in E, it's only the sale of property owned by the EDA, not owned by the city.
Oh, yeah.
correct.
So,
The council could move property into their.
you could deed property over to the EDA, correct?
But yeah, they can't. They would have to get council's permission to sell city-owned property, not EDA-owned
Correct.
property. Yep.
And is there a reason we struck E and I from section 6? Everything got relabeled. But on page 123, both E and I they're in red and they're struck. Is there a reason we removed those ones?
E was redundant,
Okay.
so I just got
That's
rid
fine.
of the duplication.
There was a lot of conversation. I just couldn't remember.
And
Okay.
then, I didn't want to say the same thing twice. And then I was one of the ones that, if you see, it has brackets around it originally,
Right.
that I had a question about, and whether, and in the discussion that you all had before, whether, how it reconciled with a provision in another part of the
Okay.
resolution, and the way that you decided the other part of the resolution, this became unnecessary. So I just struck it.
Okay.
Just out of curiosity, what was wrong with the word resolution instead of capital resolution?
I'm sorry, what?
Well, throughout here, you have, the word resolution was
It has to be
replaced
capitalized.
with.
And
Oh,
then
does
it's
it?
capitalized with
Because
this.
I'm talking, where I talk about a
title.
specific, where it is referring to a specific,
Okay.
this resolution, as opposed to just any random
So
resolution.
it's titling,
just
so it
generically.
is the resolution.
Yeah, it's like a proper name.
Yeah, got it. Okay. The more you
Okay.
know.
The only other question I have is if the EDA was looking to purchase a property, develop it somewhere where the city council wasn't aligned because it would stop other plans the city had, do we have any way of finding a solution to that this on the city council side? So let's say the city council's thinking about putting a road somewhere and the EDA just buys that property and works with a developer to put up a strip mall or something.
There's
I
gonna
don't
be
think
a
it would
lot
move
of
that
time in between.
quickly. I mean, I think
Yeah.
most of the time, an EDA is kind of implementing the vision of the council, and so it kind of, there is the way to work together. Especially here, since you'll have two separate bodies. It's a little bit more straightforward when you have the council serving as the EDA board. But here, where you have the two separate bodies, I mean, it's a matter of cooperation.
Okay.
You know, once all of this is resolved and they, appoint their separate attorney, I will work with that attorney to kind of deal with how everybody kind of works together, so.
I think that would
That'll be fun.
become very clear very quickly.
Paying attorney fees
Doesn't
twice.
it also
Well, what's that?
speak to the fact that the EDA is obligated to align its activities with the strategic plan or the comprehensive plan?
Okay.
That's correct.
Yeah.
So those are the notes I had in the resolution itself, so thank you for that, for clarifying those, I really appreciate it.
Okay.
Are you good, Matt?
Yeah, did we want to change from city administrator in 4.1 to community development director?
I don't.
Again, my
think so.
concern is, I talk to Zach on a weekly basis, he's telling me that he's busy and that's just more time that we can give him back and John can take. So it allows us to help him delegate some of that out.
My only concern was it's out of the ordinary, but. I mean, what are the,
The only comment I would have there is that was brought up in one of the meetings here just recently. And I know there are members there that prefer to have Zach as the
But what,
liaison.
help me understand more of the conversation on that and why we ended up with Zach, because they just know Zach
That's
better
how-
and John's new, or just because it's
That's
always
how it's
been?
always been.
Yeah.
That's how it just started. Since you took over the role,
Yeah.
it's just.
But we didn't have an
kinda been-
economic development advisor then either. And
I know
so
that.
just because we've always
yeah.
done it that way,
Yeah.
maybe isn't a good enough reason to keep doing it.
Well, I'm not saying that, but I'm
Okay.
saying that that's.
Yeah, that's why I
That's
asked.
who they prefer to work with. Now, they say that, not ever
Yeah.
working with John, so.
Well, again, my point was, like, I hear what you're saying. I don't know if that's a point to make me change my opinion, to say,
Right.
hey, listen, sure, we may enjoy working with John more, but we're stuck working with Zach, so it kind of is what it is,
Yeah.
Sorry.
I see the cohesiveness that you're trying to
Yeah.
bring towards it, but yeah, I mean, I'm not opposed to having that change either.
you don't foresee any side effects that matter?
From a legal standpoint, no. It's up to the council who they want to have that
You okay with that?
role, in that role.
It doesn't matter, it's up for the council.
Doesn't matter to him.
It doesn't matter one bit to
Say
me.
something
I'm
like
here
that.
doing one thing, or I'm here doing another thing, and I'm here, and I'll work longer.
You
or-
won't be here next week.
I will not be here next week. That's right.
Is there an EDA meeting?
So next week,
though?
there's an EDA meeting.
And John will take it over.
There you go.
See?
So,
It'll be their first time with John. They'll be good to go.
Okay, so we want to, it sounds like we're looking at changing that one then. Did you capture that, Amy? Okay. So the motion will be to make that adjustment. So this is a public hearing. Are we okay to? I will open the public hearing. And
anybody here?
is anybody here that wants to address this? Anybody online?
Yep, so there are a couple individuals online. If you'd like to address this item,
This is where you're
public
gonna have
hearing, would
trouble.
you please use the raise your hand function?
Quick, can you raise hand?
There are
Is he
no
there?
raised hands currently.
He's not there, huh?
No
right.
raised hands.
All right, I will close the public hearing on item N.
Okay.
There was a chance right there.
I need a motion and a second, so we can do these all in one fell swoop. Motion and a second on resolution 37, 2024, and 38, 2024 with, well, go ahead, somebody make a motion.
I'll make the motion to approve it with the changes that we noted.
Which is the only one we noted is 4-1, right?
Yeah.
Yep. All right, I got a motion. Need a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, any more discussion? Okay, we'll have a vote. Scott, yea or nay?
Yeah, that's fine, yeah.
Travis?
Yay.
I'm yea. Dave?
Yay.
Yay.
All right, 5-0 on that guy. Now we're up to item O, cannabis moratorium.
Mayor, members of council, Amy Schmidt's here to talk about the cannabis moratorium. This is something that we're going to look at putting in place for the temporary one, obviously, till I believe the end of the year when it becomes legal. But again, it gives us time to be able to put some zoning things together and some city code together related to it. And you will see that in future meetings if this moratorium is put in place. Either way, you'll see it. And over to Amy.
I need a motion in a second.
What we saw is what we got.
Yeah, I was
read it
gonna
all.
say, unless you have
Public hearing,
questions.
yes.
Oh, that's right.
That's right.
Yeah.
It's public hearing. You're 100%
Okay, so no
right.
questions?
No questions.
No
All right,
questions.
I'll open the public hearing.
Dave, do,
Huh?
Do you have any questions?
I was gonna ask
Yeah,
Dave.
I do actually.
Well, we can,
So this is,
go ahead.
this moratorium is pretty broad,
Yep.
and I just want to get some level of confidence that, because it goes till January 1st, is that correct?
That's correct.
That's correct.
Right, so is that realistic that we're going to have a framework that we can review and vote on prior to that time?
Do we even know all the rules?
Mayor, members of the council, January or December 31st is the limit, the statutory limit for the time you can adopt a moratorium for. Under the statute, it'll automatically expire on January 1st.
Yep. Yeah, so Mayor's Member Council, I know that John is able to take this item, but he is working currently on an item with our new planner 2, Hayden, and he is the one who wrote it for his previous city, or helped out significantly with it, so we are going to use
What
some of
city?
his Monticello.
Oh, all right, so it's probably in our ballpark.
We are utilizing his services
Sweet.
and be
So
able
it'll
to
be
hopefully
cheap.
help us do it again.
Okay.
I don't know if John can answer any questions related to it, but.
Yep, either September or October.
Oh, you'll have something for us
Yep.
at that time? Okay.
Is that good, Dave?
Yeah, that works for me. I just didn't want it to be something that we were planning to work on for a year and put a moratorium in place that doesn't cover
do
that
nothing
time,
with it.
so
Yeah.
that sounds good to me.
We've been working on this since middle of July, trying to get this thing moving forward. So,
Well, for, yeah, a while it was kind of a moving target, right?
still is.
As I say, they steadfasted the time frame, didn't they? They closed the window up on.
Correct.
Yeah, that's what I thought. So
Just for cultivation.
okay, so
And then I want to
you got to start somewhere. and
There are two.
You got to start.
There are attendees online. If you'd like to raise your hand, or use the raise your hand function, if you'd like to speak at the public hearing for the cannabis moratorium.
All right, I will close that one. Need a motion and a second for ordinance 2024-12.
Almost.
I'll second.
Any more discussion? All this, Scott, are you in favor or no?
Aye.
Travis?
Aye.
I'm an aye. Dave?
Aye.
Aye.
Matt, all right, 5-0. On to item P.
Evening, Mayor, members of council. Here to speak on the items related to Magnus requested waived fees. Again, I spelled waived wrong. I fixed it in item Q and forgot to fix it in item P. My apologies. But they are looking to have September 7th as their annual Friends and Family for Magnus, and they have the fireworks permit and the large assembly permit waived, total of $160.
That doesn't include time though, right? That's just the
Yes.
permits? I was hoping they were gonna be here. I had some questions for them actually, but they're not. So I guess when we did the fireworks, I've been thinking about this since the last fireworks one that we approved a couple weeks ago for the one that happened this past weekend. Scott, you made a point, I think last year when we were looking at fireworks in Elsie Stevens on that Friday night before Dayton Heritage Days, that like a budget fireworks show, decent one you can get for like $5,000, right? So I guess the event will happen whether we approve the fireworks permit or we waive it or not. And I think if you can afford a $5,000 fireworks show, you can probably afford the $100 for the permit and the $150 to have, I'm guessing, to have the fire department there for the evening. So I'm 100% fine waiving the large assembly permit fee. It doesn't bother me one bit. But again, I think if you can afford a $5,000 fireworks show, you can afford the $250 more for the permit and everything else. So that's where I'm at on this. I had some other questions too. I've got some people in my community in my direct neighborhood, and then others in the community that I heard from, that a lot of them actually are veterans that have PTSD, and the fireworks really set them off. And so it takes a couple days. So I was wondering if Magnus had even thought about things like a laser light show or a drone show or anything like that. I mean, heck, Disney's doing drone shows and they're drawing huge crowds for them. And given that their sole purpose is physical, mental, and spiritual well-being of veterans, I just thought that might be something they might want to consider. So I'm assuming they listen to these. I don't know if they do or don't, but it's also the second fireworks permit in a month, I think. So it just seems like a lot. So that's where I'm at on item P.
I do want to clarify that the fireworks permit includes the time.
Oh, does it?
By the fire department, yep, so.
Then it's only the $100.
Correct. Unless you.
Mayor and members and staff, or council, quick question. So the permit cost is $100, and that
Right.
covers staff to go out there.
Okay.
Right.
But my question is, from a budgetary perspective, as I'm budgeting no different than Paul or Marty, for my Operation Zero costs, for 6 firefighters, 1 fireworks permit, an engine, a rescue, and another rescue, a chief vehicle, and if you put my salary in there, really have an expense of about a little over $1,000, just to make it an understanding of the total cost to the organization. So I just bring that up as a matter of information.
So then a question, Gary, you had 7 firefighters at this event?
We had 6.
Counting yourself?
7, including myself,
7.
correct.
You were there too?
Yes.
Then is that overkill as far as, I mean, I don't know. I wasn't there, so.
Nope,
And
that-
the whole thing only lasted 9 minutes.
Yep, yeah. and granted-
So I don't know that was $5,000. Not that 4, 5, 3, it doesn't matter.
Yeah. Yeah. I saw $100 and I was like, listen, if it's $100, I don't think it's going to stop the event from happening, which has been I think the argument before is I think it'll still happen, and they just had one last weekend. So I don't know if they need 2 in a month. That just seems a bit excessive, and
Well,
it clearly affects the citizens of our city as well. And I'll also add horses, cows, and other animals too tend to be affected by large bangs. So, it affects our rural feel a bit too in that aspect.
yeah, no matter what we do there, you're not gonna make everybody happy, no matter what.
Nope, and I'm not trying to make everyone
No,
happy.
we're
My
not
point is,
trying
they
to,
just
yeah.
got one 2 weeks ago. I don't
Yeah.
know if, another one's necessary. And if they want to pay for the permit and they want to do it, I'm not going to stand in their way and I won't say no. But I just don't see a need to waive the fee and the cost for the fireworks permit.
So now, this is coming back to the next item also. This is all coming together here. We're gonna be doing the same thing on this one that we just did this past weekend, because you're gonna have all your time in there too, right, Paul? I mean, all the same costs for this past weekend
Yep.
are here again.
Yep.
So my point is, what happens if they end up having 4 or 5 of these every year?
This is the point. I was
Exactly.
trying to get to at the last meeting, but
Yep.
everyone seemed on board with going forward with it, and it was a good cause, so I was okay with it. But I just, again, if they want to have the large assembly permit, I get it, and I understand that police cost time, and I understand that they may not have the event if it's not donated. But again, I think there has to be a point in the time where we draw the line in the sand and say, we're here, we're supporting you, but the city is not a place for tax dollars to go to charity. The city
Yeah.
is here for tax dollars to go to taxes. We help out a little bit, which is why in my budget I put a dollar amount, because I figured, hey, at least if we have a dollar amount in there, when it's gone, and then it's like, nope, we budgeted $22,000, it was gone in June, sorry, it was gone, you should have come in earlier and asked for it, kind of thing.
The only thing I say there then is,
Because we have nothing budgeted
if you
this year.
start doing all of that,
Mhm.
then all of a sudden, the dog, just say it costs $10,000.
That's not charity though.
I know, I understand it's not a charity, but it's still costing the residents something.
Correct.
Now, and I'm not critiquing it. Where I'm going with this is, if we as a city have, just say we have 10 events, and each one of them events costs, realistically, I think Bunts, the Heritage Days, that all probably costs as a ballpark number, $3,000 worth of time?
With
Or
Heritage
not
Days?
that
More
much?
than that.
Oh,
You think it's
Heritage
more?
Days
Way
alone has
more
gotta
than
be
that,
10.
Yeah.
$10,000
Is it?
extra for Heritage Days in time and labor.
Well, then with that too, then comes in, I mean, once you start critiquing all that time, National Night Out costs big money too. I mean, you got every firefighter and every police officer out there.
But National Night goes out directly to the citizens that are paying for it. It's not a charity event.
It only goes to who shows up.
To National, true, it does, but everyone has the opportunity to show up, and if anyone ever feels that they
You can
don't,
say the
they
same-
can reach out to me, and they're always
Say the same
welcome.
thing about all these events.
Not when they're, well, first of all, some of these events are pay to get into, so it's not the same.
Magnus are, sure.
Yep,
Yeah.
it's not the
But
same.
As we
But-
discussed,
But they also aren't city-sponsored events, and to me, that's a
It
big
doesn't
difference.
matter whether it's
I don't know
city-sponsored
whether
or not. That matters
government
zero.
versus not government.
That doesn't
Funds
matter
is
because
free.
it's still tax dollars paying, whether it's city, private, or whatever. It's tax dollars are paying for those guys' time.
Again, my point is these things cost money, and if
Yeah.
we're gonna critique the budget down to $20,000 like we did last year, this costs money, and we can't just say it doesn't cost money, is my point.
It does, it does, but
Yep,
do you
it's
think,
significant money.
my question would be, and I didn't do this, I was going to do it just for this purpose. My question would be, if our resources are costing it, just say they cost $50,000 for the year.
Sure.
And I don't know if that's a valid number or not.
We're not tracking
That's
it.
Right, yeah.
$5 per resident. I guarantee you, every resident in this city would pay $5 to be at any of the, they're free to be at any one of these events. They're welcome to go.
A lot of them are free, yes.
I do agree.
I
we
would
should
think that
track
they
it.
would pay that $5.
Yeah. Well,
should be
maybe,
tracking.
maybe they would, maybe they
Maybe they
would.
would.
I just don't see that as a function of government. That's my point, is necessarily, like a core function is to be donating to these causes.
No, I
That's
do-
something to I'm fine doing it, and I've made that clear. I'm fine doing it. I just want to put a budget on it. On this one in particular, I'm fine with the large assembly permit. The fireworks piece, I guess they just had one 2 weeks ago.
Yeah.
To me, you could say, Magnus, you get 2 of these events a year, but you get all,
it's-
I mean, you gotta limit it at some
Yeah,
point.
but
Because you could have 10 of them.
Yeah, I don't disagree one bit. And that's why I think next year we put a budget in place, the dollar amount that says what it is. For this year, and for this one in particular, I don't mind the large assembly permit, that's fine. I know we gotta pay the police officer's time. And I'll get back to the police officer's time in a second, but the fireworks piece, if you can afford fireworks,
Yeah,
you
yeah.
can afford the permit for it, and to have the safety measure there in place for it.
I
To
don't
me,
have a
that-
problem with the $100.
To me, it seems like a no-brainer. On the police side, what I did find out, and I want you to correct me if I misheard you when we were talking this Thursday, is that we don't always have police that volunteer for these, so we're forcing police on mandatory overtime that they don't even want to be working the event to go to it in some cases. And that's where I get from a mental health capacity for our officers that are already working long shifts on and off and these kind of things, forcing them, if I heard you correctly, if we are forcing them to work additional shifts, that weighs on their mental health, and that's also where I have a bit of a concern on what we're asking from our police
The
officers.
operational side of
And-
things, yeah.
Is it a requirement that police is there? It's not necessarily, you don't have to be there.
For traffic control, we do.
Yeah.
They can't do their own traffic control on a county road.
Right.
They can't, they drive in that big field.
Well, they can do the traffic control on their property. They just can't do it on the county road.
Yeah, if they want. Yeah.
If they want to have people stop traffic and they can get
It's
out.
gotta be our,
It's gotta be.
it's gotta be our guys.
So I do have a concern around that, if we can. I don't know if we preliminarily approve these, and then if Paul can find someone that volunteers, then it's good to go. But I do struggle forcing people in overtime, not just because they're cops, but in general. I do. Like, everyone I know that's ever been forced overtime hates it. They hate forced overtime. So, but I think from this perspective, given the stressors of their job already, I just have a hard time forcing them to continue to do more of it if they're not volunteering to do it. If they want the time, like I know you've got a couple, every time I tell them, like, yep, this is great, I want it, it's awesome, I sign up every time I can, I'm all for that. I have no problem with that. But I think we need to be aware of the stressors we're adding to this. It's not just not the cost of the permit and the time, it's also the wear and tear on the officers.
And you lump into that, our activity center events.
Sure. I have no problem with that. I have no problem being consistent. That doesn't bother me one bit. Especially when they're asking for 1.5 officers a year, and we're not willing to always give them 1.5 officers, and then we're making them work overtime
Do
on
more
top
work,
of it.
yeah.
It doesn't.
The
It
optics just kinda
seems like
seem
we're
off.
speaking out of both sides of our mouth, and I'm really not okay with that. So
There are a
Agreed.
few of us that might disagree with your characterization.
You're welcome to disagree, but that's what we're hearing from them, and what I'm hearing from the city administrator is these people are being forced to work overtime that they don't want to work.
I wouldn't say they're, like, not that they don't want to work, but it is mandatory overtime for somebody. Whether it's one person or
Right.
it's required that somebody works overtime. It doesn't mean that you
Doesn't
don't want
mean
to
they
be
don't.
here.
Some of them don't.
Some
Some of them
Some
do.
of them.
Yep.
Some of them
They
do.
don't.
Some of them don't. I was very clear with that.
I don't know. Maybe they don't want to be here. I don't
So
know.
are we factoring this in there when our activity center does 4 or 5 events? Are we?
We're going to have to if that's the way the council wants to go.
I mean, practice what you preach. I mean, should definitely.
If we don't right now currently pay those out of the activity center budget, they just come out of Paul's
No,
overtime.
no, what I'm getting at is if the concern is that we shouldn't, have officers there, we have officers there.
The concerns we have officers that are willing to be there, not forced to be there, is my concern.
Oh, I get that. That there's no problem if they're volunteering.
I agree.
Mayor and members of council, if I may, quickly. For me, it's really about if I can get the staff to come. I can't force them to come. We always make the request as long as we know in advance, but so far, to include the friends and family one for Magnus, we do have staff, but I can't always guarantee that.
Okay. And Paul, I just want to be clear. Did Zach or I mischaracterize anything in my statement?
No, we put it out as mandatory overtime.
Good to know.
So I don't know if there's more. I'll make a motion on this, but I don't know if there's more discussion before I'm motioning.
Does Dave have anything?
Yeah, Dave didn't say anything yet.
Dave, do you have anything to say here?
Yeah, well, I think about it a couple of ways. I'm not as concerned about the budgeting, the overtime piece, because to be honest, we do that anyway. Both of the chiefs bring forward a budget for salaries and benefits every year, and it's based on last year and anticipated increases in cost going forward. So it's already in there, even if it's not its own line item. And so we have approved this kind of activity just generically because it's part of the overall budget. The piece about the $100 for the fireworks permit, I guess I'm okay with collecting that because I guess to Matt's point, it's a significant cost to shoot fireworks, and to have some fire department review of how they plan to do that and what safety measures are in place. I think that's fair to ask for that expense. The other things, as far as fire response and traffic control and stuff, and that's sort of public safety that we should just be, that we have in our budget already, and that's a service we should provide because we'll be there for the train wreck if it happens. So it's better for us to be proactive on that kind of stuff. And so I think that waiving these kind of fees on a case-by-case basis is I'm okay with. But if we wanted to charge the $100 for the fireworks permit, I'm okay with that too.
What about the mandatory overtime piece?
Well, I think a lot of jobs have mandatory overtime, so I think that's part of the role. I am certainly sympathetic to everybody having a work-life balance, but if there's a disaster in the community, then there's mandatory overtime. There's lots of ways that comes into play. So I would say that's less of an issue for me.
Mayor and members of council, if I may, from a budgetary perspective, it would be helpful to know how many events we may anticipate to do. And granted, we don't know all of them, obviously, because they can come from whatever organization that chooses to pursue the city for donation requests as it relates to staff and whatever else. I do budget appropriately based upon the public education events I believe to take place within the community, but I'm not always planning, I guess I need to increase my budget then to accommodate the additional public education events outside of the normal ones that I would typically see, just as a matter of statement.
So I don't know where everyone stands and everything, but I guess I'll motion to approve this I'll approve the large assembly permit fee be waived, not the fireworks permit fee, on the assumption that we can get a police officer to volunteer for the event. By volunteer, I mean they'll get paid.
My question is, how, then if they don't volunteer, we're gonna charge them a large assembly permit?
Well, that's
Because
not.
the event's gonna happen
The
no
event's
matter
gonna
what.
happen either way.
Yep.
Yeah.
Event's happening no matter what, so that's why I'm trying to make sure I understand what you're
Then I'll just motion that we approve it. We approve the waiving of the large assembly permit. Although I do think we got to figure something out around the overtime piece. I don't know what the
How
answer
it
is.
works in the future, yeah.
So you're waiving the large assembly permit, not waiving the fireworks permit?
Correct. Fireworks costs will be paid to the city if the fireworks happen.
I'll second that motion.
Okay. Okay, any more discussion?
Mayor, I'm just gonna,
Yes.
I'm sorry, I just want to clarify. So when council considers donating, or whatever you would like to call it, the permit fees, I just want to circle back again. Or should I be looking at, as I indicated for Operation Zero, I had about $1,000 cost to my budget? Should that something the department directors should be looking at from a budgetary perspective as we continue to move forward?
Then the only question I would ask you there, Gary, is it necessary for 7 firefighters to be on that bill?
That was the question I was going to ask too. I mean,
That's a lot, that's more firefighters than you had to try to save that house.
I mean, because I think when we had the
I don't have
Sad
any
as it is-
control over that, but
yeah,
I don't
but
disagree.
Yeah.
I think
That's
when we
the
had the fireworks Elsie Stevens last year, I think it was you. I think
No,
were there
you had
more
5.
Than, at 5.
We had
Yeah,
5 or
five.
6 there too.
Yep.
The bigger issue that we get into, in this case, we didn't, because we had the space at Magnus, the 300, the circumference of the distance that we need when we launch fireworks. Often we get mission creep, and what I mean by that is the audience tends to move closer to those scenarios, so therefore, we had to block, let's use Elsie Stevens. I sat in the tunnel so no one could get there. We had other people watching the paths as well. So to your point, Scott, or your question is, 6 is a good number to make sure that we are ensuring the safety. And then if we do have any issues, which I get 99.9% of the time, we do not have any issues with fireworks. However, as of recently across the country, there have been. So again, it's that insurance policy, if you will. That's my business. So I'm just trying to figure out budgeting appropriately so that I have what we need regardless of how council chooses to move forward with whatever the organization is.
My only suggestion there would be to have like 2 guys on, because I mean, like you just said, 99 point, and you never know when it's gonna happen, but we could have a tornado in 5 minutes and it could happen.
We have a different philosophy, Scott, without a doubt, on how to plan. And I've got a big vision of, I've got to make sure that it's covered. I mean, that's just me.
How many people does it take to run one fire truck? 4? So that's not
Minimum should be if we're talking,
A fire
That
operation.
should be. How much does that?
well, one person can run a fire truck.
Okay,
They can drive it.
Yeah, but if you're responding and before it pulls out of the garage, how many people show up?
You
Say
never
that
know.
again.
You never
Ideally,
know.
we send 4.
4.
Yep.
Okay.
At a minimum.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I would expect that if they decide to move forward with the fireworks, that they are required to pay the $100 permit fee plus the time for 4 people to be there.
So my next question, Councilman Trellis, is this, is we have a fee schedule based upon particular apparatus.
Right.
So to be clear, in my $1,000 cost, so everyone understands, is that an engine is $150 an hour, a rescue is $50 an hour, a chief's vehicle is $50 an hour. In this case, my calculations is for 2 hours for Magnus.
If that happens, you might as well forget having any event in this city.
I'm being realistic in my costs.
I mean, you just killed it all. Because then it doesn't matter whether it's city sponsored or what. The taxpayer's still paying the bill. Private or, they're still paying the bill. And every city donates time for these
Yeah,
events.
but I also don't know, I've been talking this with some of the neighbors, I don't know how many cities have more than one fireworks show. Like it's normal, right? Like I lived in Grand Rapids for a while. They had a big 4th of July fireworks. That was really the only fireworks show that went on in Grand Rapids a year. And Grand Rapids is a big city compared to us. So do we need 2 fireworks shows in a year, or 3, or 4, or 5? Like where do we draw the line? I don't know. This is where things get difficult, is because like we often compare ourselves to Champlin and how many
No,
fireworks.
I never do.
Yeah, I know you never do. You compare us to Champlin all the time. But they have what, one Father Hennepin Days is really their big fireworks show. I don't know if they have another big fireworks show in the entire city of Champlin the rest of the year.
I don't know if they do end at their band shell event or
city's
something
not
like
doing
that,
it.
but
That city's done.
City or not city. My point is, even as in Grand Rapids, city or not city.
Has anybody else asked to have one? I don't know.
I thought Champlain just had one not long ago, but I think that the thing that sticks out is the fireworks. It's expensive all around.
It is.
Given that we are wanting people there, you gotta have a rig there. They're paying $4,000 or whatever it is. It's definitely an expense. I do think that we're gonna have to come up with some sort of guideline or something that kind of controls some of this stuff.
It just needs to be consistent, is my
I
point.
mean, if Magnus tomorrow were to say we're going to have, and they're not, they're going the other way. They were going to have 5 events all summer long. That would kill us.
yeah.
And I met with them, and they made it very clear they weren't planning on really doing events at all, because they said it's better for us to work with corporate sponsors, and they said these events are incredibly draining on our resources. So I was
exactly
surprised
what
to
they
see
were
this
telling
one at
us,
all,
too.
especially after I figured the Operation Zero one was having someone else come in and put the resources in versus them. So this one was a bit surprising to me.
No, this one I think they'll still do well with. This one is really going to be, you're going to see, the last one wasn't so much local people. There was quite a few local people, but I think this next one you're going to see a lot of people in the city there.
Mayor and Council, I want to make sure that you understand. We have in the fee schedule, but we have never charged out for any fire or vehicle time. We have that time in there to be able to respond with insurances.
But I don't think last year we approved a single fireworks permit waiver or anything like that. I've been thinking back to some of that council.
But even if we didn't approve the waiver, like you don't have to approve the waiver, the fireworks permit still gets approved. They pay the $100. We don't charge them for any other time.
Right.
Yeah.
We need to, if you would
But we
seriously want to
should
do
be.
that, we need to change the fireworks permit from being $100 to being $1,000.
Right.
And now you covered your costs,
And then
now
you,
covered
yeah,
your fees.
yeah. And this is all what's encompassed in that
And now you
cost.
shut off.
Yeah.
Correct, exactly. So, but that's the point why right now it's being waived, asked to being waived, but just because it's not being waived doesn't mean it's not being charged only $100, because I'm not charging over Gary's time and
Right.
Yeah,
equipment and stuff. Unless it's for an insurance claim, then we obviously, that's what we have it for, at least currently. But
Which, as a side note, have we pushed that way yet?
what do you mean?
The insurance claims?
If we have any, we have,
Okay.
we just implemented this vehicle thing this year, so it's not like it's
Because I
been.
know for the longest time, we intentionally didn't look at insurance, any recovery there. But
Yeah, we will if there's
it's a
some,
good idea.
if there's.
Say, if somebody requests it, I mean, it's duly obligated to give it to them.
So where are we at on this one?
So the motion on the floor that I have is for only waiving the large assembly permit, but charging the
Charging
fireworks.
for fireworks.
That's what I have. And I have a motion and a second. That was made by, motion was Matt, second by Chris.
Well, I thought hold on. I thought waiving the permit would also mean they'd be paying the fees and associated with the time of the fire department to go there.
That's never been the case.
That's never been the case.
So moving forward.
And once we go down that rabbit hole, then you're also talking about, I mean, once you start charging for all of their time, then you gotta go to every agency or every group that's doing something in this city and start charging time, and you're gonna kill every event that this city does. But then all of a sudden, you're gonna have a golden carrot. If the city sponsors it, then we're just gonna be okay with everything.
We include it in the cost of the city event and charge it back, just like you
You're not
just charge
charging
it
it
back
to-
to it's like charging it back to different cost centers, basically. So if we've got a $10,000 event budget and $1,000 of it needs to be the fire department's time, then the firefighter's time should be paid from the event budget, not from the firefighter budget.
I'm just trying to understand from a budget perspective.
I get where you're going. I mean,
Yeah, it's
if
just-
all of a sudden you have 5 events,
Yep, you're asking the right question.
I get it. 5 events is $5,000 more dollars. You really need to budget for that.
Correct.
I get it.
Yep.
And we may not have, to Zach's point, charge for those things.
Great.
But there's still a cost of operating the equipment and so
100%.
forth to move forward.
Oh, yeah, I'm not denying that.
No,
So
no,
we
I
never
don't think
charge
you are
that.
either. Yeah, it's just, it's new.
Wanted to make
Yeah.
It's new, yeah.
Billing internal departments is a normal thing. We do that, I mean, every company I've ever worked for bills internal departments, so it's not like,
Yeah, but you're talking of, that's a for-profit company.
yeah, but. you
These
can do the
guys are
same
not
thing here.
for-profit.
You're talking about interdepartment.
Yeah, yeah.
He's
like
talking about
interdepartment.
Interdepartment.
police department charging activity center a fine
Yeah.
or something
Yep,
like that.
yeah.
I
Versus
just,
coming from their
I
budget.
just think that's, yeah, it's probably cleaner.
It's there for
that way.
tracking.
Yeah.
Right, you have to
And
track
then
the
we can
time.
just simply say, activity center, you're gonna get this much for stuff. If we run over, we run over. If we run under, it's good
Yep.
for next year, whatever.
But that's good data to keep. I mean,
Yep.
that goes
It
back
is.
to the budget question. It's just
It
like,
is.
yeah, there's actually associated cost to that, so.
Yeah, Then to me, you got to agree on a number. I mean, to send 7, that's to me overkill. I mean, yeah.
I don't know
He's
what's
being-
over.
I don't know what that-
Because I'm not a firefighter, so
Yeah,
I
I don't know
don't
what
feel
that number-
qualified to weigh in on what is and is not overkill.
Well,
It's not my job
but-
for a living to do that.
Because I can tell you right now, if we have 7 events and you're asking the fire department to show up for everyone because they have a $100 permit for a fireworks display, like, that's just taxing on an already, brittle system. And then that's where I go back to the conversation I had earlier in our budget discussion. Is just like all that stuff. Just it's time, it's money, but it's also who's at the end of that. I've got 30 firefighters that are saying they want to have some more time to themselves, or when is the council going to start looking at the needs of us and stop packing on more events that hey, that soaks up my summer's weekends. You can laugh all you want, Scott.
No, I'm not.
It's
and
what we hear.
I guess the question becomes, let's say they pay for the fireworks permit, but nobody wants to volunteer to do it. Then what?
That doesn't happen.
Because the fire department is a.
Then it
they're
doesn't
paid
happen.
volunteers.
That's what's happening for Heritage Days.
Then it doesn't happen?
It doesn't happen.
Okay. I mean, that's.
I mean, that is what's happening. So, I mean, use the same token.
Yep. I'm
It's
okay.
not happening.
It wasn't.
If
the
he's not
Heritage-
approving it, it's not happening, correct?
Councilman Solonic, members of council, that is correct. So to that, if I don't
Yeah.
have staff, I can't approve it. So
Right.
it's,
Okay.
there's other options.
Yeah, we
potentially,
talked about them.
But yeah.
Okay.
All right. So where we at?
I think we're at charging a $100 permit, and that's
I
it.
think it's dead. We beat that one to death.
Yeah.
Yeah, I think
Really?
I think we need to charge a $100 permit, and then we look at fee structure for next year. We should really take a look at that.
Yep.
Yeah,
That's
100%.
what I got a motion on. In a second. So.
Call the vote.
Okay. Any more discussion? All right. Scott.
Yeah, yay, yay, yay.
Travis. Aye. I'll be a yay.
Oh.
You had to think about it, didn't you?
Yay.
Yeah.
Matt. All right. So on that one, we are 5-0.
That's good.
Now we're on to item Q. Item Q. Heritage Day, same question. Who's
That question.
that, Mac? So, for this issue, I'll answer questions if I have the answers, but I will not participate in the discussion, and I will abstain for voting due to my wife's involvement with the Heritage Day Committee. So
Are you no longer on the Heritage Day Committee?
I never was.
Oh. I didn't know that.
I show up to meetings sometimes to listen to them, but it's usually kind of a small group of people, so.
So, Mayor's Member Council, I'll take this one. I worked with Lisa, I don't know if she's the chair or the president or whatever. I don't know what the DCF is, but she's the runner of the Heritage Day Committee. She did send a detailed list, which I appreciate, the fact that she's asking for these things on Friday and Saturday and Sunday. And she asked for everything and all things that she could think of. I'm not sure if she'll actually use all of these things. I'm unsure. I don't know what some of these things are. I'm going to pass those on to Marty because he knows more about the
I
event.
thought she had sent an updated list of
Didn't
what
she send an updated list?
Oh, boy.
She said she did.
Yes, it was very detailed, and it was like times and stuff, which is great. But I didn't have time to put it in the packet, I'll be honest.
No, it was after that.
Yes, it was on Friday. So updated from Friday is the waiver of the Elsie Stevens rental fee. That's a Friday night to have the event down there.
Just out of curiosity, how much is the fee?
That's gonna be my question
Ballpark.
for a lot of these line items. Is do we know the cost?
$50.
I honestly have no clue what we charge you as a park,
Yeah.
so I'm just asking.
$50,
Okay.
$75, something. It's
I want to say
nominal.
it's,
I thought it was 75 or something for
I think it's 75.
for a
And then-
weekday, but it was
and then
like
basically
175 for a
permission
weekend.
from the police and maintenance to allow the DCF to rope off and chalk painting lines and areas of parking in the park. Allow volunteers to direct the parking traffic and set up the downtown with no parking signs, and allow professional service to put the tent stakes in Dayton Avenue. So again, just allowing us to do that, allowing them to do that, no actual costs or fees related to that. On Saturday, they were asking for the rental waiver of the fee for the generator. I believe that's $250. Yep.
For the
and
day?
then
Okay.
permission to use the property at 18461, which is the activity center, to use for kids' activities from 10 a.m. till 10 p.m. That's just a general
Just a
range.
12-hour window, like
12-hour window. I think that's rough cost is $200, maybe. I don't even know if it's that much. I don't have the fee
I know there's
schedule
different
in front of me,
rates
so-
for different days of the week.
Yes, it's a weekend, so.
Yeah.
Zach, is that in your updated list? Is she
Oh,
actually asking?
correct. Yeah. Oh, yeah, correct. So we do not charge nonprofits for that, I think, because I think it's the idea that.
I think there's
it's
something in
being
there
used
in the fee schedule
think
that
so.
says that
for
that language in
nonprofits,
there.
it's
Yep.
$0. Yeah. For somebody else, if they want to rent it, I think it's $200, something like that. I think.
So I know
And then
Lions
police
have to
support
have-
shutting down Dayton Avenue between Robinson and Dayton Street from 8 o'clock in the morning until noon, and then Robinson from 12:30 until about 2, or as the police deem necessary.
So you answered one of my questions. I didn't know we rented the generator, so that's good to know. Do we also normally rent flatbed sound systems and heaters?
She does not need that. That's based on her updated request. She does
Oh,
not need
okay.
that stuff.
Sorry. Thank you.
Okay.
Good question, but that's
Yeah.
the first list she gave me was everything that she could think of. I basically asked her to put everything down, and after she was able to actually get things moving. It sounds like it's changed, which is good.
And was there any address, because it came after the packet came out, was it
Yes.
address the insurance concern?
Yes, she is working on getting insurance. I believe it was. I've not touched base with Assistant City Administrator
Same.
Amy Benting today, but it sounds like it's supposed to come in today.
Do we have requirements? This again, I have no clue because I'm.
Yep,
never
there's
been-
requirements.
Okay. I didn't know if that was normal or not.
Yep.
So.
We just want to make sure it's liability insurance because if the event's going on, then it's underneath the city's insurance unless they have their own, and they will
Right.
have their own, so that makes it
Liable to some degree.
liable on them and not us, which is appreciated. It is much less than what's in the packet for waiving of fees.
Okay.
Which is I think your general question.
Yeah. So, based upon David, do you have anything you want to ask or add?
No, I just want to make sure I'm clear. There is no fireworks associated with this event.
Correct.
That is correct.
Okay. Then I would make a motion to approve waiving the fees for this event.
David, would you be willing to amend that just upon the insurance being approved?
Yeah, I'm okay with that.
I'll second it then.
Any more discussion? Scott, you hear nay?
I'm going to abstain because I am on the committee board.
You're on the
Heritage Day
Heritage Day Committee?
DCF deal.
No, Heritage Day Committee. Well, whatever.
Well, this is kind of tight. This is Friday night is in there.
Okay.
I was like, he's abstaining, which is
Yeah.
Yep, that's fine.
Okay. Yay.
Travis? I will abstain. Dave?
Yay.
Yay.
So we are 3-0 with 2 abstentions. Item R.
Mayor, Member of Council, Jason Quisberg will take this, city engineer.
Good evening, Mayor and Council. This item was discussed 2 meetings ago, just to introduce the project and get a little bit of feedback in what direction we would go. So I'll just, to refresh folks' memory, this has to do with signalizing or adding signal systems to the 2 intersections shown on the screen. These are the Dayton Parkway interchange between County Road 81 and Brockton Lane. This is just another figure, same area, just showing some of the anticipated or even expected development based on current applications. And then also notes the traffic levels on the road, which is around 6,000 vehicles per day. So busy and only getting busier as this development and regional traffic increases. Just another side note that's in addition to last time, we have had some expressed interest of development along Territorial Road, probably a little bit less of a factor regarding the signal, but just to point out that even more growth is expected along this, or in this area. So nothing refined on this one at this point. So our budget for the project, our expected cost is about $1.5 million. That's about $750,000 per intersection. We did run through the potential funding sources at the last meeting. Our biggest question was, is the city interested in potentially using special assessments to benefit properties to fund all or part of the improvements? That answer was yes, which informed us on how to prepare a scope for the project, such a the 429 process would have to be adhered to, which requires a series of public hearings and feasibility study. Along with that are some other potential funding sources on here. It seemed TIF is probably not supported on this. That could certainly come back on the table if needed, but we figured it's probably doubtful for the project.
Justified or supported by the city? Justified.
It depends on what gets built as well. So we've had a couple, we don't know what's going, this is back to, oh, I'm sorry, I jumped to a different project. It could be justified. It could be possible to use TIF dollars on it. Sorry, I went back to my Territorial road, having just seen that on the screen. So yes, it could be a tool for it, most likely, but I think with the other options in place for the funding, it's probably not one we'd want to get into. So the next step, as mentioned, is to prepare a feasibility study. This is to be consistent with the special assessments that could be used on the project. With the study, we'd identify the costs and the funding sources. We'd narrow those down and define which properties would be benefiting, which could be utilized towards the project, and then how the remaining funding would occur. Additionally, we'd figure out the design based on the traffic loading today and the projected traffic, and then also run the signal justifications, which are kind of a standard analysis report done for when implementing traffic control at these intersections. And then just to note that there would be stakeholder contact. MnDOT to some extent, but probably more so Hennepin County, just being that we do expect Hennepin County will take jurisdiction of this road at some point in the future. So we want to make sure that we're not doing anything to jeopardize that transfer. We want to make sure that anything that we're doing is in alignment with their standards.
Do you foresee any issues there? I know we talked about before, you said they won't all roundabouts, so signals has got to be the way there.
The signals is the preferred. I don't. I have had conversations with them. They do appreciate being involved because they don't want to vary standards, if you will, nor do we. We don't want to build an intersection and then at some later date want to transfer it over and them say that's not our stuff, redo it.
I think where we want to get away with lights, we would, since there's so much cheaper.
I don't, absolutely, yeah. I think they'll be very supportive of this, being that the city is paying for it as well. But, so we'll open discussions with them as far as partnering on it. Another one is, I don't want to speak for Public Works, but I anticipate we don't necessarily want to take care of the maintenance of signal systems. So we'd like to work with the county or possibly MnDOT to see if we can work out an agreement for maintenance of them longer term, because they have the crews and the equipment necessary. So our target as of now is November for the report. That could end up varying. There will be property owner communications as well. And if there's special assessment in it, we'll probably want to obtain special assessment waivers, which takes coordination with the property owners. And if we get into it, we might have to look at some appraisals to help identify the benefit with it. So we'd like to have everything coordinated in by November, but that could get pushed out if it gets a little more complicated or we have trouble, if you will, coordinating the funding sources. So our recommendations tonight are to approve the feasibility study, the resolution for the feasibility study. Again, the resolution is the formal step to stay consistent with state statute if utilizing special assessments, and then also approve the proposal for the engineering services as demonstrated or as included in your council packet.
Okay, I need a motion and a second.
I'll motion.
I'll
Sorry.
second that.
Okay, Matt, and then Travis. Any more discussion?
Just clarity, because not everyone reads the pack, but they watch these. So we think the southern one we can get covered pretty much in full, and then the one by Quick Trip, a huge majority of it will be covered. That the city, and what I mean by that is the city won't come out of city expenses. I don't know if that was in your slides at all, but I know it was in the packet. Whenever the packet,
It was in the
clarifying
packet in the memo that was created earlier. Just to very quickly run through that, yes, the westerly or southerly, so on the left side of the screen here. The nice part about this, if you will, is the properties benefiting from this are limited to that triangle, because all of that triangle has to utilize this intersection.
And why aren't we using the triangular property to the north? Because they're going to have to use that when they develop too, right? The one you've got like hashed out.
It is. It's just because they haven't submitted an application. So I just hatched it as a future or
gotcha.
expected.
Okay,
but,
thank you.
Same with the one next to Opus.
Okay.
They actually had approvals, but then haven't moved forward. But we do expect something to happen there. So it just hasn't been assigned a
What
name.
happens,
Really.
let's say we get everything said and done, locked in, and then they apply?
Oh, this is actually separate from their development. If we go the assessment route,
I know.
We would assess the property during the process.
with or without their development
With or without their
application,
development.
it would be assessed to the property owner.
Either way, you're getting it.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep, okay.
Thank you for that.
Yeah.
Yep. Perfect.
Okay, any other discussion?
I had one question about it, and that related to the fees. There is 21,000 in project management fees for this, and I'm a little bit puzzled by what that means when it's a study, not a construction project.
Yeah, that would be, and I didn't prepare this. This came from our traffic division. The project management is how they budget their projects, so that's all the coordination with it. They separate that out. A lot of our municipal contracts, we just blend that into the rest of the activities. They separate it out as the stakeholder communication and the internal coordination, and the technical process of the design is part of that. They separate things like data collection was separated out on it as well. But it is the total package. I don't know if I have additional description other than what's in the report, having not actually prepared the proposal, but I can get more information or detail if it's needed, if it's not fully described in there.
No, well, I don't think so, but at the end of the day, it's the bottom line number that we're talking about. It just seemed like an odd way to describing what's essentially an internal project, so okay, that's all I need.
Any other discussion? All right, we got a motion and a second. Scott, yea or nay?
Yeah.
Travis?
Yay.
I'm a yay. Dave?
Yay.
Yay.
Matt. All right, so 5-0 on item R. Item S, amending the fee schedule.
Good evening, Mayor, members of council. I think we're going for a record this year of the number of times we can amend the fee schedule this year. You're welcome and congratulations.
I'd rather you amend it than just let us lose money.
Yep, so the main reason for why we need to amend the fee schedule is because we learned in July, somewhere in there, that Rogers had raised their rates to $8 per 1,000 gallons and we were only charging $6.80 something.
Oh.
So we are losing money every time.
Did you say 8 per thousand?
$8 for sewer per 1,000 gallons.
Oh, per sewer, okay.
For sewer, yep. Not for water, for sewer only, and it's only for the individuals in town that are on the Rogers system.
Yep.
And so they already have a special rate as it sits right now, but that rate was significantly lower, $1.25 roughly, per 1,000 gallons too low. We needed to raise that rate in order for us to make some sort of administration and time that we spend on those items, taking care of the lift station and so on and so forth, because we do maintain that facility, so. And we did amend it, I believe it's $8.95, I believe is what it is. Roughly, we make 95 cents per 1,000 gallons, which ends up paying for our time and enough for administration. So, the second thing that came along at the same time was something related to the cannabis, and it's because we do have a number of current low potency individuals in town that are selling it, that are licensed through the state, but they do not have to register with us based on the cannabis laws that are in there right now. Low potency is essentially the gummy
Some
they cannot
drinks and
sell.
things of that nature? Or
Huh? Say
is
that
it like the drinks as well or something like
I
that?
believe so, but I'm gonna have to look to the chief on that one. I believe that's correct.
The liquor store would be
And
selling.
so what we're looking to do is just match the tobacco and the current liquor license that we have right now is at the registration fee, so they don't have to license through us. But they do have to do the registration fee through us, so that we can do code compliance and compliance with them overall.
Sure. Okay.
And we're gonna look to match the tobacco one we already have and the alcohol one, so the full cannabis will be $3,000 per year. And then the tobacco one, the low potency for what we're looking to amend will match the tobacco, which is $200 per year. And that's just based on, like I said, the exact same schedule roughly. We don't have any cannabis in town, obviously, based on the moratorium that we just passed. And we haven't had so far with the licensing with the state, but we do have low potency. I think we have, 8 or 9 in town that are selling low potency.
Okay.
So they don't have to currently be registered with us, which is what we're looking to put in the fee schedule today.
So why did we match the on sale? So it's 3,000.
Correct.
Why didn't we match the on sale? It's not like they can smoke it in a house.
I'm gonna
Because
defer to
the
the
cannabis potency is about the same as drinking hard alcohol or.
No, I get that,
So
but
that's
I
why
mean,
we-
the liquor store, we don't charge 3,000 for off sale. That's why I was curious.
For the 3.5 beverages is 3,000. The 3.2 is
Are you
probably
talking about on
cheaper.
sale or? I thought I seen in there that the on sale was 3,000, the
Correct.
off sale was 200.
I think that might be right.
So that's why I'm confused as to why we went with the 3,000 instead of the
I
200.
can't find it on here either. But it doesn't
Yeah,
show
it
the
might be a
render.
little different if they're saddling up to the bar and lighting up, but I guess at some point they might.
Yeah, so we did match the on sale. We figured it was just based on the fact that it was liquor, and that's what I used as the example, but I didn't even think about it when they passed through it. And we did also look at other communities around us and what they're charging for cannabis registration, and we are significantly less than they are, even at the
Really?
$10,000.
Okay.
A lot of communities around us are 5,000 to 10,000 at a minimum
Okay.
for registration per year. And it's, again, I think it's mostly because it's so unknown right now, and that's why the fee is so
Yeah.
high.
Yeah.
Or that
Get
we're
that.
looking to have the fee matched on sales because it's so much unknown we're not sure of. But
Yeah, and this is kind of a side issue, but Paul, do you guys have a plan yet as to how you're going to deal with? I mean, the alcohol's very easy. You give somebody a breathalyzer. Is there any sort of process that'll?
So we have to do standardized field sobriety on all
Forms
under
of
the influence.
drugs, yeah.
So if you can prove that they're under the influence of something, it gives us enough probable cause to get a search warrant to do urine or blood. There is companies out there that and departments that are testing saliva-based tests for marijuana, whether they're under the influence or not. So they are starting the process of looking at it.
And so they'll be able to quantify how much you've had, and there's going to be a limit.
Correct.
Have they talked about a limit at all? I mean, with alcohol, again, it's easy. You can easily quantify that, but.
Yeah.
No, Mayor, members of the council, there's no, it would be the standard limit for, that it would have been before. It was legal for, if you were under the influence of a controlled substance.
But is under the influence being with pot? I mean, given that.
You have to prove that they're under the influence, and like any controlled substance, it was little or none. THC was a little higher, or marijuana is higher amounts, but I don't have the exact amount off the top of my head.
Okay.
And honestly, if it's more about impairment than a quantity of the substance.
So either
it
they're
would
driving
be
recklessly or not, I suppose that's.
Yeah, it would be a matter of, there obviously are physical indicia of being under the influence of a controlled substance or marijuana in this case. But it would be like the old days when you got pulled over for an alcohol offense and before you had the breathalyzer test or the blood or urine,
back
it
then
would
we were
be the
very
observations
concerned.
of the officer and
Yeah.
other indicia of impairment in their ability to control a motor vehicle.
I was just curious.
It's kind of worth it's starting right now with
Yep.
this too, right? So it's not so much a concern until somebody comes out with that thing that says that you can.
Did
buy
you want
this
to change that
amount,
fee,
or-
Mr. Mayor, or are you okay with it?
I'm okay with it. Anybody else have any? Why don't we?
With $3,000 being the limit? Is that what you're saying you're okay with?
Anything. Let me get a motion second first here.
I'm happy to
Make
do
a
it again.
motion.
There we go. I'll second. Thanks, Dave.
I thought there was already one on there.
Nope.
Oh,
I was trying to keep
oh,
things
okay.
moving.
I thought we were in
Everyone's quiet,
discussion.
so-
Okay, I didn't know.
Anybody have any more comments?
Well, since we don't have any of these off-sale sales, I mean, we've got a moratorium, so none of this is going to happen until next year. When we look at fees again, I think we hopefully will have a little better idea what we're allowing and what the actual value of that permit or the cost to the city of that permit might be. The $3,000 seems high to me, but the off sale is $100. That seems low to me. So, I don't think either of those numbers are right. The low potency one, I'm fine with that. But I think we should take a look at this again before we actually approve somebody to make those kind of sales. And we will, because you can't do it now and you can't do it till at least until after the first of the year. So
Cannabis,
whatever
which
we
is
put in
3
play
and
today
you
isn't
go,
gonna
it's 200.
isn't
So
gonna
I have
matter,
it identified.
because nobody
Oh.
can apply for it.
I thought it was just the one.
That makes sense, Dave.
Any other comments, Dave?
No, I think that's it for me.
Okay. All right, we got a motion second. Scott, yay or nay?
Yeah.
Travis?
Yeah.
I'm yay. Dave?
Yay.
Yay.
Matt? And that's 5-0. On to item T.
Stantec's not presenting this one?
Good evening, Mayor and Council. The item before you is about the water trail launch and accessing the funds from the HUD loan, the HUD grant that we've been granted for $850,000. This is going to be a similar process that we're going through with the wellhead treatment plant, where we need to conduct the environmental review before we can actually qualify for the funds. I had a preliminary meeting with some of the HUD people, with a representative from Stantec, to go over what they're going to be expecting from us. I wanted to get out ahead of this to make sure that we were in a good place to move the project along when we get the approval. The scope of work that's outlined in here from Stantec is as a result of that meeting. So all the items that we discussed are represented in this cost in here. I worked with Stantec because they're doing the one that we're currently going through with the wellhead treatment plant. They've got a good understanding of what this process is. I looked to MSA, who were the designers on this, and they didn't have the capacity to do this type of study at this time. I'm looking for the approval from you guys to go ahead with this. I'll stand for any questions.
I don't have any issues with it as long as we keep using grant funds and.
Yep.
And
This is a lesson learned. Now we're doing what we should have learned before. So, essentially.
Motion?
I'll make the motion to accept it.
A second.
Okay, got a motion and a second. Any more discussion? Okay, Scott, yea or nay?
Is Dave's good?
Dave, are you good?
You didn't say that?
Yeah.
Yeah. Aye.
Travis?
Yay.
I'm a yay. Dave?
Yay.
Yay.
Matt is 5-0.
Thanks, Marty.
All right, ordinance 2024, Dan, item U.
Yep. Good evening, Mayor, members of the council. I guess I'll present it, even though I have Gary and Paul listed both on here. I'm using the exact same slides that we did last time. This was tabled from the last council meeting. Again, Ordinance 2024-10. This is looking to amend or completely revamp Chapter 93 of our current city code. I did get some comments and suggestions back from council members. I appreciate the comments and suggestions. Hopefully, I've approved or at least looked at most of those within the document that's in there today. The biggest one that did come up is related to the IUPs and CUP properties. We did add a caveat in 9303 in B, related to basically just contacting us. Again, this is not to make more work for any of the event centers that are there. It's just to notify us what's happening so that we have a general idea of what's going on. And it also helps us be able to let them know about other events that are happening in the community as well that they might not know about. We will use this last weekend as an example with Magnus's Operation Zero operating right across the street from a movie night at Fisher Farms and Events Center. So the idea is for us to help them long term, and in the future here we are looking to implement a community calendar on our Dayton app, and we'll be able to advertise for those said community events on that Dayton calendar, which hopefully will help these event centers continue to have good events, because that is what our idea is of the city, is to be able to help and support our current businesses that are in town. So we will also stand for any questions that you may have. I know that Chief Hendrickson and Chief Angar are here both to address those. Thank you very much.
Okay, who wants to start?
Dave, since you didn't get to weigh in this last time, do you want to start?
I did forward a bunch of suggestions to Zach, and I see that it looks like most of them were incorporated in the updated document. Well, I appreciate Zach mentioning the 30 days, a piece of it being changed from 60, which I thought was a lot, and that it gives it a chance to be included in the community calendar. So that makes some sense to me, more so than the level of effort that would be needed to approve one of these things. I'm struggling with this thing overall. I'll have to say it's better with some of these changes. It seems awfully burdensome to me. And I think we need to probably amend what we have. I don't know, this one is a lot.
Can I ask a question on the 60-day versus 30 days? Because I was going to ask why it was changed, but that makes sense. The question I had is, how far out in advance do we do staffing for the police and the fire? Like, how far do you guys put calendars out for who's going to work when? Or is they know at the beginning of the year kind of thing?
The police department, they bid their shift, so they're on the same shift throughout the year. So they know the beginning of January 1st what days they're off and what days they work throughout the year.
Thank you.
Councilman Trosser, fire department kind of depends. I'm asking if people can work it.
Yeah.
The earlier I ask, the better chances I get for participating.
Mm-hmm. Okay. Thank you.
Okay. Matt, you want to go ahead?
Yeah, if you don't mind.
Dave, you're done, right?
Yes.
Okay.
Yeah, for now.
On 9304, so I'm bouncing back between two different tabs here, so give me a sec. Item G and N were removed. Is there a reason we removed those pieces? Did someone explicitly ask for us to not have them remove advertising or promotional material after the event?
That was requested by Councilor Fashion, so I'll let him respond, or requested by Councilor Fashion to remove it. I believe it was doubled up. If I'm incorrect, let me know.
Okay.
Right. G was redundant.
Okay.
So I didn't think it needed to be in there twice. And the removal of advertising and promotional materials, I thought that falls under, our regular ordinance around temporary signs and things in the right of way and so on. And so I didn't think that was needed for this.
Okay, I'm good with that. And then for item L, I have no problem with item L. I just want to point out that a lot of cities have moved to parade candy can't be thrown. It has.
Just simply silly.
I'm not saying I agree with it or disagree with it. I'm sure there is a reason or something happened and somebody got sued and so cities moved away from that. So again, I have no problem with it being thrown. I grew up with the generation where it was thrown at me, so I have a problem with it. Like it's not an issue.
Yeah.
I just wanted to make sure that we were all okay, basically taking on that additional risk.
My guess is it falls under, shouldn't everybody ride a motorcycle with a helmet?
Fair enough.
Right.
And
Yeah.
some people don't want to, they'll run that risk. So,
Agreed. So,
yeah.
there's a risk I'm willing to take, and
it's
throwing
just-
candy from the fire truck is one of them.
I'm good with it. No problem on my end.
I'm shocked it's even in there to begin with.
And then 9307, we removed the retail events limited to 30 days per calendar year per retail business unless otherwise approved by the city. I'm trying to
Okay.
think of a situation. I mean, if a business is running an event 360 days of the year, that's part of their business and it's probably part of their
Yeah.
IUP, CUP, whatever it is. So I'm trying to figure out why we're limiting the number of, well, we don't want to limit the number of days to make sure that we've got the right pieces being used when these things are happening. So I mean, if you know you're going to run a business and that's going to be the case, like say you're on a farmer's market 4 days a week, right, for 5 months of the year, you probably are going to come in and get a permit for a farmer's market. You're not just going to do it in the parking lot somewhere. Or
Yep.
we probably
If I
should.
wanted to sell elk jerky 300 days a year in my parking lot, I would do it.
I think the
But
idea
with
came
the
from.
ED, okay, but wouldn't that be a part of the request that that property would put in then to have an outdoor sales space?
No. I'm saying I wouldn't even ask, I'd just do it.
Okay, that's fine. Doesn't really affect me one or the other, and I don't think we're gonna have a 365-day outdoor event because of Minnesota winters, but it was just something I was trying to figure out why.
Trust me, I don't want to work 300 days of the year. let alone-
Yeah. Why it matters either way.
Councilmember Trost, the reason why that one came up, I believe, was to try to not be in the business or whatever of the company who would want to do it. I think that's where it came from.
Trying to dictate a move
Yeah,
before it happened,
correct.
kind of thing. Yeah.
And then I had, oh, go ahead, Mr.
That's what I
I was
was
just
But
gonna
this
say,
is-
this,
yeah.
this whole retail sales thing was pasted in here. It wasn't in the old one, right?
No, it was in there.
It was in there, yeah.
Yep. Yeah, so this, the whole entire ordinance, I want to make sure is known that we took literally Rogers, when they were our size,
Rogers.
posted in here, because that's what Rogers was, is they were 11,000 people in 2014 when they made this, 2012, 2014, like that, when they made this ordinance. So we literally took their ordinance and pasted it.
And they hadn't changed it
And
since.
they haven't changed it since.
Okay, so
And we talked to
literally
them and they said
adoption.
that it's going really well and they enjoy it and they'd like to add more things to it, as in like, if they have food truck events and stuff, they have other licensing, which we don't have, nor are suggesting to have, but the only thing that we changed on the caveat that we made was the IUP, CUP thing, because we have event centers, they don't.
Yeah.
And so that's why it was added, but it was added as one line item, which Chief Hutterson did, and then we amended it, but other than that, this is 100% Rogers ordinance as it sits, and it was in the last one as well, so.
That's good clarity. The other piece I'll add is that I know I got some feedback from people that special events might be a mischaracterization of what this is meant to be instead of a public event permit. So I don't know if it matters to anyone that we change the name or not. I don't necessarily know if it matters to me either way, but I want to put that out there as it might add clarity to people who, I don't know if you're getting emails from residents, I have been, but specifically, what if I want to have my family over Thanksgiving? I'm like, it's not about that.
Right.
So I don't know if changing the name of this to a public event permit from a special event permit would help reduce that at all, so people understand in my opinion, what we're really looking at here is public events, not any event. And so I just wanted to put that out there and get other people's thoughts on it.
Yeah, when I read through both of them, it seemed to kind of, after somebody had made mention to me at the same time, that make more sense if it was more of a public event. And I was like, actually, yes, I could see where the optics get kind of a little trying to see through mud when you say special, because where does special lie? What we're trying to figure is the public, the piece that I feel like the city is more responsible for in that aspect. So I agree that the name should replicate that it is a public event versus special. So
I'm not sure that to me, that doesn't necessarily clarify it, because I think a lot of people might think public events are on public property and/or, if you have a private event, or an event on private property. Calling that public is I know there's a technical definition, but I'm hard pressed to, I don't know, I can see where a lot of people would
Find confusion in that as well.
Yeah.
find confusion, yeah, just as much confusion.
The optics that were just brought to me was just like, a public event, I feel like I could go, I'm invited, a private event, and it's like, hey, I should definitely, I wasn't invited to that, I shouldn't. A special event is kind of like, well, we have a definition, obviously, but unless you're looking at our ordinance, or proposed ordinance, you don't know what special means, so, I guess.
If you got more?
No, I was just gonna say the one thing I do like about this is I feel like having looked at the old one and then this one, and then talking to staff, a lot of the things that are in here, once somebody applies, we end up going through all of this with them. It sounds like even today with our current permit. So I feel like this better communicates what the asks and expectations are for this up front versus having it be on the back end after they've already applied. So then someone kind of knows more what they're getting into before they get into it. So that's the only thing I was gonna.
Yeah, I noticed the application portion of it was condensed down, and it felt like our old one, like the application list was like a page and a half, which is like, do I have to have all these? And then I asked the question about enforcement, like does every piece of this application portion have to be filled out? Well, then it's at, the answer I got was, well, it's at whoever's discretion it is. And I felt like spelling it out in 9303 on the new one kind of made it a little more straightforward as far as the process for the applicant itself, so. I didn't feel like it made it much any worse.
What is, so 9303 paragraph B says, of course I scrolled past it. 9303B, yeah, it says, blah, 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 submitting any deposit needed to cover estimated costs to be incurred by the city for the special event. What is that? That sounds like an escrow.
Yeah, we could probably remove that.
Okay.
I don't, Chief, do you have anything? I don't have anything. My guess is, again, this came from Rogers, so we did our best to amend it as best we can.
You know what? Let me ask you that, something about that. Did they say, so does their council approve these?
Yes.
Because I talked to one of the council members, and she said the only time they see these is when the event is asking for city services.
Sure, but yeah, they do approve them.
Yep.
So part of their process, and some things we moved out or changed and amended, is that I don't know if these need to go to council for approval, because if they're just going to work, why burden council with approving them?
Yeah.
And if it's not going to work for staffing level, then you can approve it all day long, but we can't get it. So
yeah. My only concern whenever I see these things, and when we seen the first one, we didn't have anything prior to that. My concern was that at some point, and I've said this before, I worry that some of these are so restrictive that you could really use them as a weapon. And I'm not saying that that is routinely happening, but it's easy to use.
I think there's a lot of things you could do in code that could be real.
There are, except this is 5 pages of stuff.
I will say that this is trying to be more upfront about what you need versus like, hey, apply for this, and then you won't be able to get it anyways because you don't meet half the stuff. So. Yeah, you could probably strike B if you wanted to, because we don't have a deposit. This is going to be the same fee that it was before. Again, this is not supposed to be a money maker for the city. Just to let us know, and it's going to be $60, because that's about the time it takes for both the chiefs to review it and make sure and good to go.
That same 9303 paragraph C, items 10 and 14. So, I mean, 10's kind of easy because my question here is, the state already regulates this. So, and with 14, you may not have the permit from the health department when you apply for this. Because in a way that almost serializes these things, and you're back to 60 days.
Hopefully you have this before you apply for it if you're cooking or serving food. My guess is that you're probably going to have it. And if you don't have it, you're going to provide it to us before the event happens.
Well, the health permit, if you serve beer out of a keg, you get to apply for one of these.
Correct.
Well, that means you gotta apply for it before, you have to apply for it and receive it before you,
Before you have the event.
before you apply for this.
They could apply for this at the same time. Just say, hey, this, we applied for this, and once we get it, we'll send it to you. It's not like it has to be, we have to have all this stuff. It's just, by the time we get it approved, it has to meet all this application.
It just says attach a copy.
Sure.
That's why I was looking at that.
Sure. If you have one, it makes it obviously a little less time to
Would
do
it be-
if you have it already.
Would that be something you'd say like supply before the event or supply before?
Yeah, again, with the
I just
consent
wonder what kind
application,
of
we're gonna say,
language
okay,
you'd put in
send
there,
it
yeah.
in to us before you get it.
And again, that's just the little things that concern me.
Yeah.
9304, that whole, a lot of that seems like it's just replicating state statute.
I'm gonna defer to the chiefs on this one. I don't know 9304 about the issuance of the permit stuff.
I don't have 93.
I can read.
It's all the
through it if you
requirements
just-
of like, requirements for using garbage, requirements for sanitation, requirements for traffic control.
State fire
So-
code.
Mayor, if I may,
Yeah.
the biggest thing with this is, to some comments from council, is that this is really specific to public events. We'll start with that. We're looking at, a city fair, a city carnival, whatever event you can think of. The idea is that everything that's in front of you, to Councilman Trost and I think others, and hopefully this will address Councilman Fichant's concern, is that this is really no different than what we currently have today. With the exception of all the steps are listed here in the ordinance to help guide the person making the application.
Well,
Because currently, right now, to Councilman Henderson's point, we have a 2-page document that asks a bunch of questions.
yeah.
And some of those questions get answered and some questions don't. This helps mitigate them and us having multiple conversations as to what we're looking for, and I think it outlines it pretty specifically.
I agree. I think it does clean up some stuff. I think let me get through my questions and then I'll.
To your point of it being redundant, I don't know if people go look at state code and then know it was redundant if they were doing it. So maybe it doesn't hurt, I don't think, to have it in there.
Yeah.
So then it's there in one place versus, can I go find the state code and I'll go back to this and I'll go to that, and that's annoying. If you do these regularly for a foundation or for whatever, you probably know all that. But if you say, I wanted to have a farmer's market, I don't know any of that. I just don't. I've never done it before.
I get some of that. I'm just, I don't disagree that it cleans it up. I think the application is smaller. My big hang up is if this is really aimed at those type of activities. I do not like the 50 and I do not like the 1 hour. 50 people limit and the 1 hour.
1 hour.
Of, I mean, the last one was 204 hours. And that's the only reason I voted for that last time, is because they bumped it up to 200. To me, this is, at some point, we are gonna just permit people to death. I don't, if we can adjust those, I'm fine with it, but.
Mayor, a quick question?
Go
So
ahead.
you're saying, I just want to clarify, so the 4 hours is like duration of the event?
Yep. It was, yeah.
I guess I don't have any concerns with the duration of the event, but the 50 people, again, as I said numerous times, comes back to the fire code.
That's the state, yep, and they can enforce that. I'm just saying, I don't like that at our level.
The time doesn't matter to me.
That's my piece.
I'm fine with the 50. I mean, we should be in compliance with code. So if the fire code is 50 people, then that's where it should be in my opinion.
Well, then, it's already covered. Anybody else? Dave, you already said your piece.
I don't like any of it. I'd throw the whole thing out the window, personally. I think it's way over, it's just, to me, it's government overreach. And what really tops the candy, for me, is 9308. If this is a city event or night
that was a little
unite,
bit.
then it's okay. You can do it, it's excluded. Yeah, on one hand, it's good for this group, but this group, you gotta get a permit. I'm just not, I don't know.
All right,
Motion or?
yeah, well, how do we, all,
Just a quick question, Scott, on that. If the city went through, was required to get a permit, would you be okay with it?
Who's the city gonna get a permit from itself?
Yeah.
They're gonna pay all the fees?
Yep.
Where are they gonna get the money from, the taxpayer?
Yeah.
Intercompany transfer. So you'd want night people, anyone that wants to have a night to unite.
What's the difference? What's the difference whether it's night to unite and you got 200 people there and a 300 square foot or a 500 square foot tent? Because I'm sure that, I don't know, I mean, maybe there was one out there. I'm sure there was a party that had over 50 people at it. And then that night, you don't have to, you're void, you're clear, you don't need this. Now, I understand the difference because everybody knows you have an address, there's a party at this address. But that doesn't stop the needing for for you to come in and inspect a tent. Does the state mandate or take care of the fire code?
Yeah, the state.
With the fire code in place, do they come out and inspect for the tent?
Does the state? The state doesn't have the resources to do that. They don't have the resources to conduct those in hotels and in schools like they're supposed to as it is today. You can call and ask them that question.
Okay.
But the reality is when I have to inspect to the fire code, I'm enforcing the minimum within the fire code. So the minimum is basically what's stated in the fire code.
Okay.
So don't get tied up too much into the tent aspect of it, because somebody could have, let's just use Fisher Farms, Magnus, I don't care, whoever. They erect a tent once, and let's say they own the tent. Go out and take a look at it. If it meets fire code, we're good to go. It can be standing for 6 months. Just that kind of that working relationship with them in that capacity. As I said to many people, the fire code has been put in place because many incidents have happened in the past. So we're trying to prevent them as we move forward. Not everyone's going to agree with it. There's people out there today, business owners that they build restaurants, if you will. I'll use them as an example.
Yep.
And they will cut the business to be 100 feet short of what's needed for fire sprinklers. And that's fine. I mean, that works, but that's up to you in that capacity. But if we have issues, so I get it from both sides at the end of the day. Again, my job is to make sure that the community and the public are as safe as we possibly can so that the city minimizes, reduces the liability that's brought back to us.
Okay. I can accept all that, but 9308, you don't need it. Then it's all void. God, it's,
all right,
I'm good.
motion?
It's all motion that we approve it with the changes and then adding the removal, I think it was 9303B, Mayor, correct?
Yes, I believe so.
The application for the permit should be.
Yeah.
Yep, so removing that piece.
Striking that.
Okay, any second?
I'll second.
Okay, any more discussion? Scott?
Nay.
Travis?
Yay.
I'm a nay. Dave?
What do you say?
What was that, Dave?
I'm sorry, nay.
Did you say nay?
Nay, yes.
Okay.
I'm a yay.
I say
Okay.
no.
So we need a different motion.
Nope.
Nope.
Failed.
Doesn't pass.
So now we just use the old one again?
Yep.
Yep.
It'll
Okay.
just revert to the old one, yeah. Which, I don't disagree, probably needs some work, but.
That's more restrictive than the new one, so.
Yeah, I mean,
Well-
What do you mean?
it is what it is. Yeah, I mean.
Well, in one aspect, yeah, and that private part.
It doesn't apply to most people. So. Okay. Item B, approve plans and specs for Territorial Road Watermain extension.
This project too, we discussed at a previous council meeting. So this involves a project or upgrades in the corridor of Territorial Road, generally between County Road 101, which is Brockton Lane, and Dayton Parkway, as shown on the screen. And just to note, there is a larger project that's being planned here. In fact, at the, I think it's 2 meetings ago, council authorized the preparation of a feasibility study for that. That project includes sewer and water extensions from their existing locations, shown in the solid lines, all the way to Brockton Lane, along with full reconstruction of the road and the associated stormwater improvements that would go along with that. The project we're looking at tonight is just a small part of this project. It is limited to just the water main extension as shown. The reason this is separated out and being considered at this time is the owner of the property labeled Dayton Storage is interested in getting water service to his property now, so he can forego a fire suppression system or supply and storage of a fire suppression system on his site. So again, the scope of this is about 1,700 feet of water main only. It's directionally drilled, so they don't have to rip up the road or do anything else. There will be minimal digging in it. That'll just be repaired. Preliminary estimates on this is about $450,000 for the project. The funding source is the Dayton Storage property owner. He has agreed to fund this project in its entirety up to $500,000 because of the benefit he realizes by expediting these improvements. And just to note, there is an agreement in place between the city and the property owner, and my understanding is the funds were wire transferred over last week. So everything should be in place from a funding standpoint on that. So the plans and specifications have been completed for it. The next step is for council to approve plans and authorize contractor bids. And just to note the schedule, if they're approved tonight, the plans and bids authorized, we would open bids on September 3rd and then turn them around right away for council consideration for award on September 10th, with the construction happening as soon after that as can be allowed with the contractor that has awarded the work. We did leave the final completion to the spring of 2025, partly to just leave plenty of time if there is any settlements and the little bit that they'll impact the road, or if there's any vegetation that's not established or any minor items. We will hold that escrow in place until those are all resolved next year, just so that any unused balance of that escrow was not released prematurely, if you will, before the project was closed out. So our recommendation tonight is to approve the plans and specifications and authorize contractor bids.
So this was, I mean, this one property owner, this is the storage place, right?
Yep.
So his costs to put in a sprinkler system exceeded 500 grand.
Yes.
See that, and you wonder why businesses.
He shared it was comparable, so
Yeah.
he was interested in this, yes. He did not share a specific cost with it, but he
Right.
was willing to
Clearly
put
it was, right.
$500,000 towards this.
Regulations cost money.
So, yeah, and he will still have a fire suppression system. I just want to make sure that he's not foregoing that. However, this does avoid the drilling of a well to supply the water, and
Well,
then
and
large
the
tanks
storage,
and
yeah.
pumps to operate the
Oh, there's-
system. So I think in addition to the extra cost for the system itself, it's also, I mean, it's a storage business. Your value is the space you can rent out. So whatever you utilize towards this system is space that you can't gain rent from, so.
My only question is if we go to for the bids and all the bids come back higher than that, are they okay paying your fees and us and then rediscussing with that, or what does that look like for us? Like, what do we, when it comes to the escrow, what are we really signed up for?
I was gonna check that, that was incorporated into the, do you remember, Amy? I think it was that those fees would be paid and taken out of the escrow account, is that correct?
And the remaining given back?
I believe so. And then the remainder giving back.
That's right. There's a provision in the agreement that if the bids come back high, or for some other reason the project doesn't go forward, that any costs incurred by engineering or legal by the time of the cancellation would be paid out of the escrow, and the balance would be refunded.
It's going to be a bummer for him.
Thank you.
Yeah, it would Yeah, because he's now planning on this
Right.
on his timeline of.
And
moving it.
we not
make
only
those
didn't give them that
improvements, so-
service, we took some of it.
There is a benefit for the city to do this. Obviously, we're sending
there
a water
is.
main extension a long
Oh,
ways
right.
after.
Yeah, I get it. Yep. I just want to know what
There
we're
is, yeah.
officially signing up for as we
Yeah.
move forward
If
with
it
this.
says it's $1 million, then we should probably talk.
Yeah.
I think to address the concern, the risk moving forward is negligible.
Okay.
However, and
Yeah, I
that
think
is
if
on September 3rd, if we open bids, we can have discussions if needed.
Yeah.
I mean, if it's significantly higher.
It comes back at 525, we'll have a discussion about it.
Right, exactly, yep.
Anybody have any questions?
Make a motion to approve.
Okay,
Second.
Dave, Scott, any more discussion? Okay, Scott, yea or nay?
Yay.
And Trev? Yay. I'm a yay. Dave?
Yay.
Yay.
And Matt. All right, 5-0. Passes. So now we're on to a closed session. I have the verbiage to read. Gotta find it here. You make these longer each time, is that?
Actually, I didn't write this one, sorry.
You're
Can
welcome.
we just say, we're talking business here? All right. All right. Next item on the agenda is a closed session that will follow Minnesota Statute Section 13D05 Subdivision 3B, which allows the city council to have discussion to determine the asking price for real or personal property to be sold by the government entity.
No, that's.
Yeah, that's wrong. To be
What?
purchased by the
Did I
government
leave the wrong-
entity. But you just said sold versus bought.
I'll interrupt and just
Yeah,
note
go
that
ahead.
if you can, you need to note that it's 3C3, 13D05, subdivision
Did I write this wrong chapter
3C3.
too? Perfect. See? That's why I
Okay.
don't do these.
So, and that will be purchased, or, yeah,
Acquisition. It's on the monitor. If that helps you at all.
yeah, I need my cheaters, or my lawn cheaters. Oh, but that's,
It's on, yeah, it should be the same
Yeah,
thing that's on there.
that's-
I copied it from there, so.
Oh.
okay. Subdivision 3C, which allows the city council to have discussion to determine the asking price for real or personal property to be purchased by the government entity. During the closed meeting, city council will discuss the development of terms for the acquisition of property rights involving PID numbers 30-120-22-31-0008, 30-120-22-42-42-0003, 30-120-22-41-0001, 29-120-22-33-004, 29-120-22-33-005, 29-120-22-34-001, 29-120-22-34-002, 29-120-22-34-003, 29-120-22-44-002, 28-120-22-34-002. There's a need for confidentiality because the city's position would be compromised if such discussions took place in public and could be overheard by the property owners. Accordingly, pursuant to the law I have cited, I will hereby entertain a motion that this meeting be closed pursuant to the attorney-client privilege. Motion.
Actually, it's
that's
not being
right.
closed pursuant to attorney-client privilege, it's being closed
Oh, yeah.
under the real estate exception that you cited earlier, Mayor.
That's my fault.
All right. What
Got a
she
lot of them.
I'll
she
still
said.
second.
I'll motion.
Okay, we got a motion by Matt and Scott second.
While we set up for this, can we take a 5-minute bathroom break too, please?
Yes.
Need a vote?
Need a vote. Scott?
A vote to take a break?
No, a vote
Nope.
for the closed session.
Close session.
Yes, yay.
Travis?
Yay.
I'm a yay. Dave?
I'm a yay, and you'll have to give me a minute, because I guess I have to come in on a different Zoom link for that.
Yep.
And Matt?
Yay.
All right.
We'll leave
We
it time to
are-
do that.
We will take a little break and go into closed. If there are no objections, we'll be adjourned out of the regular meeting. And there's none, so we're adjourned. All right, we're good.